was intentionally set. Authorities are still searching for the person of interest. Jury selection scheduled to begin July 30th in the Brian Kohberger murder trial. He's charged in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students inside their off-campus home in 2022. The trial will be held in Boise. This is ABC News. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an address to Israelis, says Israel will control all of Gaza by the end of the war. Netanyahu defying international pressure to stop its military push.
Nearly 500 Palestinians have already been killed in the new offensive, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. The UK, France and Canada have already demanded that Israel halt its offensive in the strongest terms yet. Now, Israel 2 days ago said it will allow a basic amount of food into Gaza. And yesterday said 93 trucks were let in, but it's not clear if they have reached people. And aid agencies have previously said it's nowhere near enough, amid warnings that hundreds of thousands are facing starvation.
ABC's Patrick Reevell. Tesla robo-taxis are coming to Austin, Texas. Elon Musk says the company will roll out about 10 self-driving cars for testing by the end of June and thousands more over the next few months. Musk plans to expand to LA and San Francisco. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Hey, it's me, your liver. You know, the organ that helps you recover every weekend after pizza, donuts, and all those drinks. When you have a headache, you take an aspirin. You have a stomach ache, you pop an acid. But where's the love for your best buddy, the liver? The least that you could do to help me stay healthy is take Active Liver from New Nordic. Active Liver tablets contain high-quality, all-natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke, and turmeric extracts, which are proven to keep me healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver provides an easy daily detox and helps protect me all year long. So let me make you an offer you can't refuse. You take care of me with Active Liver, and I keep taking care of you. Capiche?
See for yourself why Active Liver is Scandinavia's #1 liver health supplement. You can find Active Liver at CVS and online at Amazon or directly from newnordicusa.com. Again, find it in stores at CVS or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Gordon.
Welcome back to the program, folks. I'm back. That's right. I'm back in the land of round doorknobs here in these United States, the land of liberty and freedom. Boy, it's exciting to be back breathing that air, even though I've got a bit of a chest cold from the crud I picked up down on the other side of the world in South Africa. Let me say hello to my co-host tonight in East Tennessee, none other than Sergeant First Class Retired, Todd McKinley. Todd, how are you tonight?
Oh, good, Colonel. How do you hear me out there?
I got you 5 by. Sounded good.
Welcome back to America. And I think you brought the South African president with you. We'll talk about that later, right?
We're going to talk about that quite a bit. I mean, that is the news in Washington today. I mean, it's one night where my interest in South Africa comes right into play for our program tonight. That's going to be a big topic for tonight. Yeah. Up in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire, none other than John Grosvenor. John, what's the word? How you doing up there?
Doing good, Chris. Doing good. You know, same old up here in Nashua, New Hampshire. Good to see we got 3 kings in the room.
All righty. Good to go. Yeah. All right. Let's get started. Because I've been kind of short, only taking the first hour or so, and then unable to get in the past couple weeks. I mean, I was literally in the middle of nowhere last week. I mean, I couldn't even upload a 1-minute video. It took like 4 hours to upload a 1-minute video onto my YouTube account. Yeah, I had to recharge my phone because it ran out pretty quickly there. But hey, guys, well, it's a pretty epic day. Today, arguably, was the most important day in the postmodern history of South Africa since 1994, since the CODESA Summit, which was the Convention for Democratic South Africa, where all the parties came together with the existing apartheid government to negotiate a settlement on what government came next. And then for Cyril Ramaphosa, the single most important political date in his life. And he fumbled it badly. I don't know if either of you watched this today. It was painful to watch. Sadly, I predicted this was going to happen, and it's exactly what happened. But of course, the media, American media, South African media, they're running around all over the place, covering the backside, lying, saying Trump ambushed, and he got it wrong. And the problem is that anything that came up was an allegation in the conversation. Not one instance of accurately refuting what was stated. So, Todd, did you catch any of this today?
Oh, absolutely. I caught it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I caught some snippets of it, caught reporting on it. And, he was like, where is this from? Where did you get this? What is this? It's like, and I was watching Fox News a little bit earlier there, Brett Baer's show. And one of the panel discussion was, I genuinely believe he didn't know where this came from because nobody told him. He's probably guarded behind some walls somewhere, not knowing what the heck's going on. Whenever a president of a country should know that's going on in your own country, for crying out loud.
Well, I was in South Africa recently.
Yeah.
He traveled to Johannesburg, and he claimed he had no idea this state of degradation and collapse of the central business district of Johannesburg, which is like, Snake Plissken and Escape from New York is what it looks like. It's a disaster. And he said, okay, we're going to have to use that expropriation without compensation law we just passed to start confiscating buildings that are abandoned. Of course, the problem is the buildings aren't abandoned. The owners have been chased away by gangsters who then rent the buildings out to other people. They go to court and spend a fortune trying to get lawyers to get the police to evict them from the buildings, and they never do it. And then the police don't take action. And now the government comes along and says, well, you've abandoned the building. No, that's not what happened. So, if he's that ignorant of what's going on in the largest city in South Africa, I'm not at all shocked to hear that he doesn't know about this. Now, there are already leftists out there trying to debunk, John, what actually was shown in that video. I know that video, if I recall correctly. That is a protest that occurred after the torture and domestic terrorist murder of young farm manager named Brendan Horner, who was tortured and tied to a fence post and then executed 5 years ago. This was a protest, and what they did is they put crosses up to mark the deaths of people who've died. This occurred in the Free State. That's one of the provinces in South Africa. People are trying to claim that it's not real. It's done in America. They don't have trucks like that in South Africa. Well, of course they have Ford trucks in South Africa. They're made in South Africa.
Yes,
my goodness. Idiots. But John, I mean, we already see the leftists trying to debunk this nonsense.
Oh yeah, man, it's nuts. I see some comments here where they're claiming South African president knew. He just feigning like he didn't know.
But why would he do that? What's the point of that? Why would he pretend he didn't know? He looks innocent. I don't know. He looks, I suppose, but he looked pretty stupid is what he looked.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, he should know what's going on in his own country, so he loses either way.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. I'm reading some of the comments on one of our sites here, talking about, pretending like the president didn't know. And then like they just love the fact, and some of these folks are from South Africa. I won't say their name on air, but some of these folks, I mean, they just love it. They know that their president's corrupt over there. I love this.
Well, guys, I mean, look, we're going to harp on this tonight. It's my lead, and I'm talking South African. That's what happened tonight.
I fully expected this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is honestly the biggest day in South African history since 1994. I mean, there's no question about it. And the government of South Africa fumbled this. I tried desperately when I was in South Africa. I know that the ruling party, also other members of the government nationally, watched my videos and the media watched it. And I tried humbly and even aggressively and politely. I tried every approach to warn them that they're not getting it. They don't understand. They come here and if you watch the video, you saw them. Well, we have rare earths that we can let you have access to, and we'd like to offer you this. No. Donald Trump doesn't like racism. He wants you to end your racism, and that's the bottom line. And they just don't get it. They're just going on and on. It was cringeworthy, except that for a lot of South Africans, they were very excited about it. I know a lot of people were so excited to see this finally exposed before the world, but it's saddening, Todd, to watch the media run with a fake narrative. They already, and PBS is fact checking this moments before it's over. I don't recall them ever fact checking Sleepy Joe Biden, the man who didn't even sign pardons, an auto pen. And in fact, the Democrats have now been exposed for having known that Biden had cancer. When he said he had cancer 2 years ago, it wasn't a gaffe. He had cancer. He's had it for years. He just spoke the truth, and they tried to say it was a gaffe.
They didn't have to fact check, Chris. You know how to tell if Joe Biden's lying?
His mouth is moving.
He's talking, isn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty much everything he says is a lie, it seems.
No, it's pretty sad, folks. Look, guys, if I can for just a second here, because I had a huge audience in my program today, and I think a lot of people have come into our radio program tonight and aren't familiar with it. So I'm just going to explain our program for the wider audience out there, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
You're the lead, baby.
All right. Well, of course, I'm Colonel Chris Wyatt, retired U.S. Army. My colleague over here is Sergeant First Class retired Todd McKinley. Both of us have taken the step forward and tried to run for higher office and didn't have such great luck. But we're both serving our nation in other capacities. In the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire is John Grosvenor, who's a trucking industry expert. We'll call him that. I think that's appropriate. And so John brings an angle to this, dealing with government bureaucracy And Todd and I have both served in uniform and served in combat. We've served our nation. Between the two of us, Todd, I think we have like 60 years, close to 60 years of military service, something like that.
Yes, sir. You got almost twice as much as I do, and I retired, so that's wild.
Yeah, well, I was far too long, I think, is the problem. I didn't know when to leave. But no, it's so we've got almost 6 decades of military experience between us. We've been all over the world. John has been all over the country. He knows this country inside and out. And we bring a different flavor. It's called the Common Sense Conservatives. We're centrist, center-right. Apparently, we're not right-wing podcasters, though. Just want to put that out there.
Right-wing podcasters.
But we frequently have guests on the program, including we've had famously in the past, General Don Bolduc has been on the program. He was a senatorial candidate in New Hampshire, and many others. And so we come to you every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. For South Africans, it's a bit late for them. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. But thank you for joining us. We rotate the chair, so there's a different one of us that leads each week. And it's my turn tonight. And it's rather fortuitous. I've just gotten back from South Africa. And now we have this event taking place today where Cyril Ramaphosa visits the United States and has a meeting with President Trump. And it's not like Mr. Smith goes to Washington. That went a lot better for Jimmy Stewart than this way. Todd, this was ugly, man. It's like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
That was train wreck. And while we were just talking there, as you were doing the introduction a second ago, I was watching a little video on mute and watching the president from South Africa just squirming in his seat, like looking for an exit. You know, he's like, pick one of the doors and run out it, buddy.
Well, what was also fascinating about this, John, is that he brought along some of his Trump's friends. Of course, Trump is friends with some pro golfers like Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, famous South African golfers who've been very successful in the past. Gary Player as well, but Gary's up there in years and I guess didn't come along for the trip. And then Johan Rupert, who is a billionaire, a major shareholder in the Richemont Group. That's a luxury manufacturer of luxury goods like Patek watches and LMVH and stuff like that. What Hennessy, I think that's all part of that.
Yeah.
group.
Oh, yeah. That they own a lot of luxury brands. Yeah, that's an interesting story if you get a chance to watch that bio.
Yeah, no, it's so Johan Rupert. He's the one that apparently brokered this meeting because he knows Trump. And then they also brought along their agriculture minister, who's a member of an opposition party that's now part of a coalition, John Steenhuisen from the Democratic Alliance. And interesting thing, because this topic was not raised during the conversation. It got cut short there, John. But the topic of race-based legislation never came up, something called broad-based Black economic empowerment, which is funny because they set quotas for how many white people can be employed. And in this meeting, the president of South Africa brought 4 whiteys along with him. So I think he violated the race-based quotas for his delegation.
Right.
John, I don't think it was right. I think he messed up, John. He had too many whiteys in the crowd.
I think maybe he was trying to play politics.
Yeah, well, I think they were trying to suck up the Trump. They thought, well, we'll show you some rich white guys, then you'll like us. It doesn't work that way, guys. You know, Todd, I'm just astounded at how stupid people are on the left and abroad who think that Trump is a racist. They still believe the nonsense, and they think if they cater to his racism, that he'll like them. He hates racist.
Right. Yeah. If you look at his friends, go back. He's been a public figure in the public eye since he was born, especially since the 1970s. I mean, he's been friends with people of all races, men, women, whatever, people of all sorts of backgrounds, you know, even working class people he's been friends with. And currently there's a number of working class people who actually work in his administration that he's recruited because he recognizes talent. And the fact is, they're not all white. That's for sure. A lot of African Americans work in this administration. I dare say probably more so than any other administration, with the exception of maybe Obama. I don't know.
Well, and also Trump is probably the chief executive. I've never seen chief executives that spend so much time promoting and advancing and mentoring women. He does it all the time. Yep. And also a lot of Hispanics. So it's full disclosure, folks. Of course, I've worked at the highest levels of U.S. government and written for the President of the United States. And Todd worked in the White House Communications Agency and has worked at the highest levels. In fact, he's best buds with Joe Biden. Used to take the train with him. Oh, come on, Todd. You used to take the train with him every weekend. Be honest.
Todd used to said he used to enjoy
Iraq to get away from him, by the way.
What's that?
I said yes, but then I went to Iraq to get away from him on a MIT team. So,
so there you have it, folks. Todd McKinley took a deployment to Iraq to get away from Joe Biden.
There you go.
Now, were you carrying the classified data that he had hid by his Corvette?
No, definitely not at that point. No, he still was crazy Joe, not senile Joe with cancer. He was crazy. He had gaffes all day long for sure, but at least he could actually carry on a conversation and finish one sentence or two. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but Todd did work at the White House Communications Agency, so he knows intimately how things work at the White House. And and dignitaries, heads of state coming in and such. I thought that was entertaining today, watching Ramaphosa come up in the armored vehicle, being greeted, and then all the lackeys coming behind him and walk in.
Yeah. Well, for a friend of mine, Abby Jones, she's actually the protocol officer for the United States now, which is technically an ambassador at large, I believe, position.
I think that is.
She's from Tennessee, by the way. So.
Well, there you go. Not from East Tennessee, though, is she?
She is from Cleveland, actually.
I'll be darned. East Tennessee. Yeah. Look at that. East Tennessee representing the House. But Todd, you did that for some time. What was that experience like as an American in uniform serving in the White House Communications Agency? Because that's critically important. By the way, I'll describe it. You tell me what I got wrong. But the White House Communications Agency, those are the military folks responsible for the secure and unsecured communications of the president and his entourage.
Yeah, but in a nutshell, there you go. Senior staff, National Security Council, vice president, other dignitaries, cabinet members, like the top cabinet members, DOD, state, stuff like that. We provide for them as well. In the event that they should step up and become president or vice president, whatever, they have it available. So.
Yeah, so what was the most, I'd say, most rewarding part of doing that job? Because look, not anybody gets to do this, folks. You have to be handpicked, selected. You got to go through a rigorous background check. And this is not just the guy walking off the street gets to work in the White House Communications. Just like what I did. You don't get to just walk off the street and write for the President of the United States.
No. Yeah. I got recruited when I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I was put immediately after the end of the briefing, I was told, you're now on presidential hold. Only the President of the United States can get you off of these orders, or until the investigation is done. It was about 8 to 9 months investigation, nearly a year, and finally got orders and reported in December of 2002. And that was probably about a year and a half since after the briefing, actually. So it took a while.
That is quite some time. And you did that for some time. And what was probably the most challenging aspect of that job? Were you working a lot in long hours, or are you always away from home? What was the biggest challenge?
No, those weren't challenging. I mean, working a 72-hour shift or something like that, or traveling around the world, not a problem there. I think it was dealing with staffers who were, young 20-somethings just out of college. Now, all of a sudden, they've been given all sorts of power. They're a senior staff member within the White House, and now they want to come tell you how to do your job, or want you to do things that are outside of your scope, if you will, because we have, in the military, you can't actually engage with the political side of things, and they want you to actually do things that on the political side, and you're like, you can't do it, and that ruffles a lot of feathers sometimes.
I experienced the same thing dealing with staffers for members of Congress, senators in particular. Russ Feingold's staff was one that I remember very well. They wanted me to say things that were political, and that's not my job. My job is to analyze and give the best prediction I can. And if it happens to be political, because that's the nature of it, then that's it. If it's for us or against us, that's just the way it goes. Yeah, it's very frustrating for these snot-nosed, little wet, nappy-haired, dripping just out of university, thinking they know the world and they've got it by the tail and don't know anything about the world, given all kinds of power, or they think they have power, acting on behalf of members of Congress. It's really annoying. But some of them are very good people, but there's also some really snotty ones out there.
That is true. Yeah.
So
you know who I am. I work for so and so.
Exactly. Your name dropping. I know who you are. You're snot-nosed little brat just right from Georgetown.
So
That's
you're
right.
Not the important person. He is, or she is.
You are not Senator so-and-so. You're not going to sit there and browbeat me. I've only been doing this for 30 years. Piss off.
Yeah, I had a staffer one time try to, really get in my face on something. And I pushed back properly. And I was very diplomatic and professional in the situation. And the Vice President Cheney happened to walk by and overhear it. And he looked at me and he pointed at me. He goes, "He's right," and walked away. And that was the end of it. And the guy just walked away from me. It was kind of wild. I was like, wow, that made me feel good. That was probably one of the best feel-good moments outside of attending maybe one of the parties during Christmas time or something like that.
Sure enough, I can understand that. So, guys, you know about South Africa a bit. I don't know how much you knew before we started talking about it. Of course, I cover South Africa extensively. So you hear about it occasionally here. But, I mean, is it an interesting, every conservative commentator, every centrist in America, McKinley, Stephen Crowder, Charlie Kirk, everybody suddenly is a South Africa expert. They're all talking about South Africa. And, of course, most of them really don't know what they're talking about. But at least they're talking about it. I mean, have you ever seen so much discussion in South Africa since 1994? I haven't, in America.
No, not at all. But it's funny how, like you said, this is the big thing of the day. So now it's about the fundraising off of this. Hey, look at how Trump's giving him the business. Send us money. I've gotten probably 2 or 3 texts today. It's one of those, hey, I'm not asking for money, but take this survey about Trump's meeting. And then you take the survey. It's like, then they ask for the money. It's like, come on, you are asking for money. Hello.
Oh, wow. So you're actually getting text messages about it. So, John, what about you? I mean, can you ever remember anyone talking about South Africa as much as since 1994? I know I can.
Actually, for me, I've always got little bits and pieces, and I always scratching my head hearing things like, about farmers getting killed and laws being passed. Like somebody was talking about all these anti-white laws and pro-black laws and stuff. The racist laws being passed against white people. You get bits and pieces kind of dribble in. You don't get a whole lot of it. And then all of a sudden, it's like you said, 1993, 1994, when was it Nelson Mandela was freed or something like that.
Oh, he's freed. He's freed in 91, 92, but there was 94
just after
the transition occurred in 94.
There you go.
Wait a minute. I thought he died in captivity, right? That's the Mandela effect, right?
No,
the Mandela effect.
Yeah, sorry.
But we just got these little bits and pieces, and I used to scratch my head wondering what's going on over there. And because of you and Billy, I learned a lot more about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't know as much because I'm inundated with my own things over here in the U.S. But it's very it's interesting to see how it's lighting up, and I hope that something good comes out of it for the folks in South Africa.
Well, John, you make a very poignant statement there, because my viewers in South Africa, my other program, frequently ask me about the U.S. and what are the perceptions and what do people think about South Africa. And I said, look, guys, I mean, hurt your feelings, but most Americans don't think about South Africa. They've got other issues to worry about, daily issues, kind of like Trump. Everyone's talking about Trump. The South African media, South Africa's been a thorn in Trump's side. It's really irritated him. I don't think so. Trump's more worried about Ukraine and Gaza and reciprocal tariffs and the budget and things like that, John. I mean, and bureaucracy trying to clean up the government with Doge.
Yep.
I think Trump, he's more than willing to work with South Africa as far as turning things around. I mean, he's not going to just hand it to him. As far as I have a hard time to say Ramaphosa.
I like how you said that though, but Ramaphosa is his name.
So he Trump's like anybody else. When you get your act together, then we'll start talking about the benefits for South Africa and what we can do with it. Same thing he did in South America with a lot of these communist countries that were bleeding out
Trinidad and MS-13.
MS-13, it is MS-13. So they keep bleeding them out on us. And he says, look, you take care of your criminal problem and stop making it our problem. We'll start talking about economics here in Venezuela. We'll start talking about economics down here in Colombia. And you started seeing some changes, and then along come Biden, and we saw everything revert back.
Yeah, Todd, I've got to say it was fascinating to see the comic show that was going on here. They're like, well, we have a problem with crime, but we need your help. We need your technology. This is the same communist government that they don't declare themselves communists, but part of their every one of their senior leaders is a card-carrying member of the South African Communist Party too. But this is a party that has denied access to our technology, that has put barriers up for us shipping technology. In fact, Johann Rupert, the billionaire, said that, we used to put a program in place to stop poaching, and we bought drones from America. But then the previous administration under Jacob Zuma banned us because they said the drones were spying on South Africa, which is ludicrous. Right. And so now they're telling us they want our technology, but these are the same people that make it impossible for Elon Musk to bring Starlink to South Africa, because he has to give 30% of his equity to someone because they're black. But it reminds me of the Lethal Weapon 2. When they go to the consulate there in LA, and Joe Pesci brings in Danny Glover. He says, "My friend wants to immigrate to South Africa." And the guy comes in, he goes, "But you're black." I'll never forget that.
Diplomatic immunity. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Arjun was the character's name. Yeah, that was. No, but it's just crazy. I mean, they want our technology, but they won't let us export it there. There's just this total. It was a total crap show, total nonsense. It was all supposedly for the cameras, but they walked into a buzzsaw. And Todd, the media, South African U.S. media, it was an ambush. They were set up. No. In fact, what happened when it went sideways is when Trump was asked a question by a reporter, he started answering, and his guest interrupted him. Cyril Ramaphosa interrupted. I'll answer this question. I'm like, oh, okay, go ahead. And Trump's like, here's the shovel. Would you like the shovel to help dig?
Yeah, dig yourself a bigger hole. Yeah.
So here goes Ramaphosa, working on the railroad. Next thing you know, he's 4 feet under, almost not quite 6 feet. Oh my goodness, he dug his own grave today, and the media are just trying to cover it up. But anybody that watches it and is objective will see that this did not go well for South Africa, Todd.
No, it did not. But I want to shout out to all these people. I'm looking at this, I'm scrolling through, counting different names from South Africa watching. I mean, this is great that we have this audience right here. Mosul Bay, several other places that people are tagging where they're watching from. This is great. So if anybody listening, tag yourself. Where are you watching this from or listening to this from? I'd love to know. This is interesting.
I think there was somebody here in South Africa who was in Moscow or in Russia, I think they said earlier. So welcome to that person as well.
Wow, that's
I don't recall us having viewers in Russia before. I mean, I'm not the most complimentary of Vladimir Putin, so we don't get too many Russian
Putin, yes.
Well, he was South African, and he migrated to Russia to get away from the abuses.
Yeah, no, I got that, but I'm just saying, and we don't get too many because the Russians don't watch us, but we got some from the Philippines in here, people in South Africa, so it's an interesting night tonight. But again, this just shows you how big this story is, which we're spending so much time on tonight. It's just insane, and we'll get to the Joe Biden had cancer story or has cancer story a little bit later, but probably in the second hour the way this is going. But Todd, I mean, if you haven't watched this, man, you got to watch it. It is theater gold, man. I mean, this is almost as entertaining as watching The Big Bang Theory, and you know how much I love that show.
Dr. Sheldon Cooper.
That's right.
I'm gonna watch a little fun with flags with a South African flag behind me, and then I'm gonna watch the whole interview. I'm gonna love it tonight.
Yeah, in fact, I was watching, I don't know what season it was, one with him and Amy Farrah Fowler the other day, and I was trying to get some sleep, and I had it on. He's like, yeah, we told you last time there was a flag with pink on it, and you said it wasn't true, and here's an 1827 flag from this province of Russia. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like Estonia or something like that. Anyway, yeah, fun with flags, Sheldon Cooper. But this was, look, I'm not kidding, Todd. I had popcorn out. I had the popcorn. I was eating it, watching this.
Yeah.
This was
like that Michael Jackson meme. Yeah.
I was going to say that, just like the Michael Jackson.
There you go. And you know, and it's almost like I felt like Nostradamus. Okay, here it comes. Now is the moment. And as soon as he interrupted, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh man.
Yep. He's gonna dig that hole, man. Well, you know, it's one thing when you dig your own grave, and that's what Ramaphosa did today. So, my goodness. You know, I don't. By the way, hey guys, I got this really cool gift from one of my viewers. He's a postal worker and a Navy reservist, lives out in Utah. Really nice guy, Courtney McBride. He sent me this first day cancellation edition envelope of the 60th presidential inauguration, of course, with the Trumpster and J.D. Vance.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Isn't that cool? That's really nice
right there. Cool.
I'm sorry for the listening audience, you can't see it, but trust me, it looks really sexy, doesn't it, Todd?
I like it. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And speaking of things looking strange, I'm curious, what exactly, I've been gone for 2 weeks because I couldn't get a connection, but suddenly John is in triplicate. What's going on there, John?
Oh, they had the camera over here, the freestanding camera. So I pulled it up and I had two angles, and I thought, you know what the heck? I never shot the studio. So I pulled up the third angle from the back of me, and you can see out into the lobby. And stuff.
All right. See, you give kids toys. What next thing? Now let's go with 4.
Hey.
4 is good. Let's go with 5 angles.
Right.
Yeah, you know, pretty soon there'll be a bunch of little dots of images there.
Exactly.
Yeah, there'll be a camera down on a light pole outside, you know, peering in, you know, to the window.
Now, you can do the same thing, Chris, with OBS. I know you've got it.
Yeah, you can do that. And I was just curious why you were doing it, John. That's all.
Well, it just gives different, you know, something different to do.
Oh, absolutely. I was just curious about it, though. You did make some kind of 3 Kings comment at the beginning. I assume that's what you were talking about. Or are you talking about 3 of us?
No, actually, I was like thinking, you know, we have a full house with 3 kings, but
we do. It's it is a full house. It's good to be back with you guys. And again, my apologies, but I mean, I was sucking bandwidth through a straw, and I mean, literally gasping for air. That's the worst internet connection on the wall. And it's ironic because I had the same problem a few weeks prior in an upscale hotel in Durban. I didn't expect that. I couldn't do anything. It took forever to do things, but a bit surprising.
Well, you're lucky to get electricity down there, aren't you?
Well, yes. In fact, some of my viewers couldn't watch the broadcast today because their power went out because they got load shedding.
Yeah, somebody made a comment about it earlier. They should be working more on creating constant electricity instead of drones.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's a good point. You know, instead of worrying about technology to deal with crime, how about we provide electricity so we can keep the lights on and keep the electric fences going?
Right.
I can tell you the technology that works for crime is proven to work every time. Go out and buy yourself
Smith and Wesson.
Smith and Wesson. Get yourself one. You know, get yourself a magazine, holds about 16 rounds.
Yeah. But I don't trust the government or the administration in South Africa to use the technology prudently. You know, I would think they'd use it to actually attack their people or to oppress them. They wouldn't use it to actually do any policing, I don't think.
Well, actually, Todd, what's going on now is the government's introduced a measure to disarm private security guards. There are 750,000 people working in private security. Now, there aren't 750,000 with firearms, but a number of them actually have firearms and tactical response teams, things like that, which are the only defense that many communities have. And they want to disarm them. And again, I asked the question, what problem are you solving? I'm not solving any problem. They're talking crime is rampant. Well, that's not going to make crime better. That means the criminals have guns and nobody else does. What kind of morons come up with this stuff?
Well, the kind of morons that want a communist country, and the way you go about getting it is creating dependency on the government. When you can't defend yourself, you're relying on the government to defend you, right?
Well, that's not going to go well. I mean, I can't get the government to do things, even in this country where things work. Imagine what it's like in South Africa where the government doesn't work. The ports are collapsing. The rails are disaster. You know, I was in Pretoria and I became a South African because, you know, they don't drive. We drive the right side of the road. and the Anglophone world that drives on the left side, which is the incorrect side. But in South Africa, I couldn't drive on the left or the right. I drove on what was left of the road because of the potholes.
Yeah.
I'm literally dodging potholes. It's like an obstacle course, and I actually cracked the hubcap, and I have to pay for it for Avis. Kind of sucks.
As a truck driver, I can relate to what you're saying because I work a lot in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, where they can't keep the roads functional.
Right. Yeah, one of the listeners here.
So I'm sorry, it's not like they got millions of miles of roads in Massachusetts either. It's a tiny little state. Go ahead, Todd.
Right. Yeah. So one of the listeners here said that the private security is sometimes the only police force you can trust here. One of the listeners wrote that.
No doubt about it. Hey, by the way, I did score a coup when I was in South Africa, guys. I don't think you might have known about this, but the refugees began to come over to the United States. The first cohort arrived on the 12th of May. And before they left on the 10th of May, I actually interviewed the first ever refugee, and it's good fortuitous event for me because she actually was the first person to walk out from behind the screen and be seen on international television. And guys, she gave me a gift, which I've been using to go after when people act very rude to me. And this isn't directed at either one of you, and those listening can't see it, but this is my bugger off bunny. You see that on my next finger?
I like it.
That's my bugger. She gave that to me as a gift. It's a bugger off bunny. When people misbehave, I just show them the middle finger with the bunny on top, and so then it's not really an insult. But I think everybody gets the point. That's pretty cool, huh?
I was insulted when it first came up. I really took offense.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. You guys in Massachusetts. I mean, New Hampshire. So
nearly got a tear in my eye.
A tear in your eye. Come on, buckle up there, buddy.
Darn right.
Yikes. Anyway, yeah. So, guys, I mean, I can't overstate what today was like, and just give you an idea of the interest. I mean, for my program, it was a record-setting day. We had 157,000 people tune in to my live broadcast. 14,000 plus was the peak audience. It was just insane. The chat was off the charts. We slowed it down. It was still going faster than anybody could see. It was a crazy day. There was a lot of interest in this, and I was far from the only person broadcasting this. A lot of people broadcasting this, but so many people are interested in this because I talked to friends in South Africa during the day, which was early morning for us. Like, the world's standing still. I said, what do you mean? Nothing's happening. Nobody's calling for orders. No one's going to the stores. Everybody's just waiting for this meeting with Trump. Wow. And they were waiting, and they saw it. It was pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. I mean, gosh, John, I know that South Africa's not a big topic for you, but this is entertaining television. You got to watch this because what happens is that
absolutely
is the president of South Africa denies that there's anything wrong going on in South Africa. And then Trump says, no, but we've got a lot of complaints about South Africa. No, but there's crime is affecting us. No, we've got thousands of complaints. Another crowd. Okay, can somebody turn the lights down, please? Oh, and then he played the video. Oh man, it was like solid gold. I was like,
it takes you back to Zelensky, right? He put the meeting on camera for everybody to see and let the guy just bury himself.
Yeah, well, a lot of people compared this. Is it going to be like Zelensky? He's going to get Zelensky. Of course, I coined a verb for the former South African ambassador. It's unfortunate for him, but it works out really well because his name is Ibrahim Rasool. And when he got persona non grata sent out of the U.S., I said he was Rasooled, and so that's kind of become a verb. Well, he didn't. Ramaphosa didn't get Rasooled, and he also didn't get Zelensky, but it was pretty close. I suspect that Ramaphosa got a good deal because they were late for some reason. I don't know if it was because the State Department delayed them or they were just being tardy like Africans like to do, which is very disrespectful to lead the free world. Whatever the case is, the thing was supposed to start 11:30. It started about a couple minutes to 12. And so they were way behind, at least a half hour behind. So rather than go to the lunch and then do the presser, they did the presser first. And I suspect that Trump was very soft on them actually in this presser. But then behind closed doors, he brought it on like MMR, man. It was like Vegas, Ultimate Fighting Championship. I bet they were like, head just bounced back. It's like you said, was it Rock'em Sock'em Robots?
The head, right?
Yeah, exactly. And his head pops off. Yeah, no, that's probably what was behind closed doors because this was, not pretty. Now the difference with Zelensky is they had the lunch and had the meeting or whatever, and then they did the presser and he acted like a fool, so he was sent packing. Ramaphosa was still invited to the meal, so apparently it didn't go that badly, but I think it was bad at the meal. And then we don't know what happened after that. But we'll have to wait and see what the developments are. So, guys, we're talking about South Africa. Can you imagine this? This in 2025. Why are we talking about South Africa?
Well, because a lot's going on. You would think by 2025 they always talk about in the future the world will be more peaceful and stuff like this. We're still living in the same Neanderthal thinking world that we've been living in for millennia. It's the same nonsense. year after year. We never get over ourselves. It's incredible. They say we're going to advance. The only thing we advance is with technology. Pretty soon, I guess we'll have a technocracy and we'll be governed by technology, and we'll be forbidden to do these things anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, apps will decide what we can do in life, right?
Yeah, we'll have our what's that social scoring system.
Oh, absolutely. You can see
No,
it
that's
happen.
social credit scores. We don't need that. We don't need that. That's not good. Hey, folks, you're listening to WSMN. This is the Common Sense Conservatives every Wednesday night with my co-host Todd McKinley in East Tennessee and John Grosvenor up in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is Chris Wyatt from Central Pennsylvania. We're all over the East Coast here, and we're covering the world with these stories. And tonight we're talking a lot about South Africa, but you're listening at WSMN broadcast at 1590 on your AM dial and 95.3 megahertz on the FM dial. And as Todd likes to say, you can find us on the interwebs. You can check that out too. We're on the interwebs, the internet. Mm-hmm. That is the actual phrase, but it was actually called that at one time. Yeah. I think that must have been back when Al Gore invented it. Remember that time?
Right. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, never mind that DARPANet was there for decades before Al Gore, but yeah, he invented the internet. What about that Tim Berners-Lee, who came up with the HTML? That wasn't, he wasn't the guy. Yeah, internet protocol, packets, and all that stuff. I guess, that Al Gore is a smart guy.
Politicians invent everything, didn't everybody know?
Well, they invent misery. I know that.
I have actually seen them. I remember when Congress told manufacturers of diesel engines that they had to clean them up and stuff. And they give them a deadline. Like they were just assuming they could do this.
Right.
They're telling them, hey, we kind of put a lot of research and millions of dollars every year into research into this. We're trying to do this already on our own. If it was possible, it would have been done by now. And they give a deadline. So they did that. Remember that Volkswagen with the computer chip that burned out after a certain amount of miles? Well, they pulled that stunt on them. That's when it first happened. Congress found out and got really irate about it. That's when Caterpillar Motors said, you know what? Here's your bunny. Chris Wyatt reference here. And we're pulling out of manufacturing over-the-road engines. They only do off-road now as a result. That's Congress for you. They're idiots.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they are. I know.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I have a Toyota 4Runner with a V8 in it, and I wanted to replace it. I can't. You can only get a 6-cylinder. Why is that? Because of CAFE standards for emissions and for mileage. This is just nonsense. Let me buy what I want to buy. Don't force me to buy a 6-cylinder. I want a V8. I want some mojo. I want some horsepower there.
Right.
I mean, that's the best engine I ever had. I mean, I'm really glad I bought that thing. I bought that in 2004. I still got it. But I'd like to get a new one, but I can't. You got to spend like $80,000 to get a V8. I can't afford that. I'm not one of these rich guys, Hey, but apparently Ford, in order to take advantage of the tariffs, has got employee discount. So you're not paying the tariff and you get an employee discount, get a good deal on a Ford, apparently. That is an unsolicited, unpaid announcement for Ford Motor Corporation. I just thought I'd let you guys know that.
No. So, Virtual Western Cape, I am not actually in my house. I'm in the studio itself. I'm in a business. So I'm in a radio studio.
He's at the radio station. He's actually there, man. Hey, come on, this isn't some fly-by-night operation. We're not a bunch of guys sitting on our couch eating Cheetos.
No, we're not in our houses. Come on now.
Wouldn't that have been good if I had a bag of Cheetos right there and I started crunching on them after I said that? But I didn't have any. No, this is a serious operation here, folks. This not come on.
Cheetos. I'm on
That's right, man.
I had a friend that would do live videos laying on his couch with his ashtray on his chest.
There you go. Well, guys, we are really, obeying the Federal Communications Commission laws and regulations. Hence my rather clean instead of potty mouth tonight, because we don't want to get in trouble with the FCC because we're broadcasting over the airwaves. And, it's nighttime. So if you want to skip wave, you could probably pick us up all the way out there in Henderson, Nevada. If you're working in an Amazon warehouse, you might be able to pick us up tonight. You never know. It's at 1590.
Yeah, on AM.
Might just jump across that skip wave. That's a nice phenomenon, Todd. Do you ever do that? Driving around the country as a military guy, pick up those radio stations from the other side of the country just because of the skip wave?
I have, of course, yeah. And of course, working in Signal Corps, we had all sorts of radios to play with, Troposphere, all sorts of fun stuff, satellite. We had the gambit, and it was fun.
Yeah, okay. I was in the Signal Corps too, but I never had that much fun. I was always in the field, man. I was busy putting in shots.
That's where you have the fun, because you talk to people on the other side of the world. Like you're in Germany and you're talking to somebody at Fort Hood, or somebody in TC, and you have a network connected. It's kind of cool.
Well, that's the other thing too. I think a lot of people don't realize, if you're in the Signal Corps in the Army, when people are paying to make long distance phone calls, this is before mobile phones. Free. You could sit there and pick up and make a phone call anywhere in the world for free, man.
I did it many times on a DNVT. You just I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just had to know the right switchboard to go through and the right code. You're good to go. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. Because I remember, man, with the Gulf War, it was like $3 a minute or something like that. It was
People would
crazy.
come over to us when we're in the field or deployed or whatever, and they'd be like, hey, and they come with hat in hand, you know.
Suddenly
hey,
you're
can I make a
popular.
call? Yeah, a first sergeant or a sergeant major comes over with their hat in hand. Hey, can I make a call back home? I'm like, sure, Sergeant Major, no problem. And he brings over the good MREs for you to eat. I love that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I tell you, it's sometimes you thank goodness for those meals ready to eat, because I remember on Winter Reforger in January of 1985, our water buffalo at the MKT, the mobile kitchen unit, was damaged. And so they had to reseal it, but they used the wrong sealant. And the water tastes like plastic because so they cook the eggs in the mermites. Todd does with mermites.
Yep.
And there's a little. They have these like thermoses with these little containers individual, and they sit in boiling water, and that keeps them warm. Anyway, they put the scrambled eggs in there, and they tasted disgusting. I couldn't eat the food for 2 weeks. So all I ate for 2 weeks was meals ready to eat when I was on that exercise, and it was wintertime too. So boy, I tell you, thank goodness for MREs, or I would have starved to death on that exercise. Winter Reforger, January 1985. It was cold, man. It was a cold reforger. Never going to forget that. But they would bring the food, like the we had a staff sergeant who was a squad leader. He'd go around to all the, because we're remote site signal guys sitting on hills by ourselves, and he'd come out and bring the mermites. I'm like, oh yeah, food. I'm like, just spit it right back out, man. It was disgusting.
We're good.
You know what? Just bring the MREs next time, man. That's all right. We don't need more of that. Yeah. So, gosh, guys, let's get back to South Africa a little bit, but I want to talk quickly about Joe Biden. Let's talk about Sleepy Joe. Thoughts and prayers to his family. I mean, look, I don't wish him well, even though I don't wish him evil. I don't wish him
ill will.
Ill will. Thank you.
There you go.
I don't wish him ill will, despite the fact he's evil incarnate. It's suffering from prostate cancer, which apparently he's had for 7 years or longer. Todd, did you hear that? The docs are saying this doesn't develop overnight. He's had to have for 7 or 10 years. So there's no way that the White House surgeon would have missed this diagnosis. Therefore, I think whoever was responsible for his health care should be investigated and potentially charged.
Well, Colonel Kevin O'Connor, he had been a Delta Force physician, by the way. I served with him at the White House, or he was at the White House Medical Office, White House Communications Agency, and also Ronnie Jackson, excuse me. He's a congressman now, former admiral. He was Trump's doctor. And Ronnie Jackson actually re-enlisted me whenever I re-enlisted for the final time when I went indefinite at the White House, and I've got pictures of it. And I got along with Ronnie back then. Kevin O'Connor. Got along with him. Great guy, very very charismatic. And then all of a sudden, you see he got in league with Biden. I'm like, man, I kind of lost a lot of respect for the guy. And I hate to say that.
So, I mean, but honestly, this is not something you miss, particularly someone at that age. I mean, over the age of 50, they're constantly, every time I turn around, I'm getting letters from the VA. Hey, we want to check your prostate. No, thank you.
It's working.
How many times do you want to stick a finger in the wrong place? Come on, man.
Moon River.
Yeah. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. Anyway, so no, but seriously, I mean, that's just this doesn't pass the smell test there, John. There's no way that they weren't covering this up.
Somebody says they kept it quiet for a reason. And my thoughts are, they kind of kept it under wraps. I'm sure they knew, right? When he was examined, they had to have known, hey, this guy's got it. So they didn't release it out to the media, but would it have mattered as far as his presidency goes? Would he have been removed? I mean, I don't think so.
He should never have run for president. They knew about this before he was president.
Right.
He wasn't healthy enough to be president.
That should have been full disclosure up front. Hey, I'm running, but I have this. Let the American people decide,
Well, I mean,
you can't be president with an illness, though.
If the American people just known about the laptop instead of the lies being spread about it, then we already saw that. Was it? I think it was 12% of registered Democrats who voted for Biden said they would have voted for Trump if they'd known about the laptop. That would have thrown the election easily, despite everything that was going on in 2020. There's no way they did not know about this. And then it's not just that. Remember the Her report? Now the audio tapes have come out. They also knew this guy was gone upstairs. He's nothing but moths flying around in that cranium up there.
But remember when Biden was in office, they didn't want to even release the transcripts of that. They fought releasing transcripts of that interview. That's
and in fact, basically the investigator said this guy's mentis and whatever the heck the word is in Latin, I can't remember, but he's incapacitated essentially is what he said. He's a well-meaning old man. No, he's not a well-meaning old man. He's an evil B word. It begins with a D. But yeah, no. Anyway, I don't wish him ill will. I hope that he recovers from the cancer so we can prosecute him.
Yep,
Yeah, right.
I would love to see.
So, to answer your question, Linus, yes, we do actually read the streams as we can, and we respond to them as we can. For instance, I was getting ready to say here, somebody made a mention. No wonder he ate so much ice cream, referring to Joe Biden, of course.
Well, a chocolate chip ice cream. There you go.
Yeah. Well, remember whenever they made a big deal of Donald
didn't
Trump
do
getting
that?
2 scoops of ice cream and everybody else got 1? They made a big deal of that. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's just comical. But while they're all busy trying to pick apart the little trivial things with Trump, he's reordering the world. I told everybody in South Africa that I talked to, I said that America was headed down the same path as South Africa just a short while ago, with this diversity, which is a lack of diversity, equity, which is inequality, and inclusion, which is exclusiveness, excluding white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males especially, but not exclusively. I said that we were headed the exact same path as South Africa and Europe. And on November 5th, Todd, we saved America and maybe the world.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're absolutely right. You think about all the trade deals and the level of the living that actually goes up whenever people have jobs. And I'm not talking about trinkets that the government throws out there, but actual well-paying jobs. And of course, manufacturing jobs pay very well. And you see that overseas, people that have those jobs, that does a lot for their families and villages that they live in or communities that they live in. I mean, it's very important, and it goes a long way here in the U.S. as well. And I think where rising tide lifts all boats actually it rings true whenever we're talking about Trump's economic ideas.
Well, I agree 100%. I think, I agree with your thought. So there's people spazzing out about these tariffs, and they think the tariffs are evil. They don't understand it's a negotiating tactic, and we've seen it actually play out in Greenland with Denmark now willing to put ships in the Arctic Sea finally. And we also seen Panama kick the Chinese out of the Belt and Road Initiative, trying to secure rights to the Panama Canal because of threats. And then with tariffs, and then finally Colombia, when the president tried to stand up to Trump after agreeing to let our C-17 land there. Oh, that's just insulting. Okay, Trump on the golf course, Doral, 25%. Next week, 50%. Week after that, 100%. An hour later, they relented. Meanwhile, we've reached a bilateral trade agreement with the United Kingdom, which is some good news. We wait to hear what the details on that, but it's happening. It's all happening, and people think Trump's crazy. He's crazy like a fox, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you don't know what he's going to do. Yeah. Call him the orange fox. I don't care what you want to call him, man. Yeah, he knows what the heck he's doing. He knows what he's up to. And every time that he proposes something, he throws a tweet out there, people are like, oh, that's crazy. That's psychotic. Week 2 later, all of a sudden, what he was trying to do works out.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Trump knows what he's doing, and these tariffs are going to get it done for him. Now, I hope that doesn't disrupt trade, but it's funny how I read a story in the, was it the Wall Street Journal, I think the other day, or maybe it was the New York Times. Can't sure which one, but I read a story the other day. They're talking about how the iron mining business in Minnesota is suffering, and they're blaming Trump's tariffs. But Trump's tariffs just got imposed a month ago, and then they start referring to the downturn in the industry where they lost all this money last year. Trump wasn't president. How's he responsible for that? Come on,
yeah.
They just lie. They just lie. It's unbelievable. It's everything. It's just. I'd say it's shocking, except it's not. It really isn't. But John. So let me ask you this question: did you see anything other than a couple clips, or do you know anything about what happened today with Ramaphosa there in South Africa visiting President Trump?
Honestly, I missed it. I was working all day today, driving. So, and sometimes if I know there's something going on, I'll pull it up on my phone and I plug it into my stereo on the truck and listen to it. I just totally missed it today.
No, but the reason I ask you that's not to put you on the spot, John, but just to make the point to South Africans. There's a lot of South Africans who are watching right now because they've tuned in because of this event today. Guys, that's exactly the point right there. John's got other things to worry about. He's got other issues. And it's not a dig on John. I mean, he's we got this program tonight he's got to prep for. He had to drive today. He's got a family. He's got responsibilities. So that's just kind of the nature of things.
I do want to say on top of that, Chris, it's not that we don't care. I mean, because I have taken an interest, especially doing this show with you. You talk about it from time to time, and Billy's also into it.
Right.
And he's talked about it from time to time. So the more I've learned about it, the more interesting I think it's become. And I do care, and I am more interested in it. And like I said, the things that have gone on that I found out going on in South Africa through the years is abhorrent. It's disgusting. And the fact that it's happening is just incredible in modern day times. These are rights against humanity. I don't know. I'm assuming that South Africa is part of the United Nations, and nothing's been brought up all these years, and nothing's been brought up about what's been going on in South Africa. This is incredible to me. So there's been no focal point in this. And I think the more I've learned about it, I think the more there does need to be a focal point. And I mentioned this to folks that have been watching in past shows, what are you doing to defend yourselves? I mean, arm yourselves, stand up together, organize, structure, get together to protect yourselves. But I think it comes down to, like most things, and what Chris said earlier, is people get distracted, they get busy, they don't know these people that are being affected, they don't know how to protect these people being affected. But it's time to do something, folks. I mean, what was it they say? Evil prevails when good men refuse to rise.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, so again, I wasn't putting you on the spot, and I didn't think you took it that way. But my point was to try to make a point to folks, because it's very easy to be caught up in yourself. And I'm not picking the South Africans, but a lot of South Africans think that South Africa is so very important to the world, and it's fair enough, because there was a time when South Africa was critical to the world during the Cold War.
Yep.
The anti-communism stance that the government of South Africa took was critical to defense of the free world, and they were a bulwark against communism, and they were also a major source of strategic minerals, and especially gold back at that time. But South Africa today is the world's 10th largest gold producer. They've fallen off the charts because of their interference in the mining operations, and the handing equity stakes out to people based on their pigmentation, not on their competence or their equity. And it's just really undermined the mining sector across the board. And South Africa slipped down the charts. They're not as important for minerals as they used to be. And so they're just not that important. They don't cross the radar screen of people all the time. Now, they cross my radar screen. Of course, I have a deep interest in Africa and South Africa in particular. But for most people, it's just not something that it hits their screen, unless they've got a business interest there. So, Todd, did you ever think about South Africa before we ever started talking on this program?
Outside of just if you see something in passing that's very a big story, something that breaks, maybe, okay, yeah, I got it. And then you forget about it a few minutes later. But since you've been talking about it, and of course your experience, I've actually taken a bigger interest in South Africa. Now, I'm not reading things every day, but whenever you talk about it, I'm like, hey, let me look that up. So I'll Google something after the show and learn something. So yeah, I've actually taken a bigger interest since you've started talking about South Africa, for sure.
Well, and the thing is Todd, we're both soldiers. Soldiers tend to, not all the time, but especially more senior soldiers, senior NCO, senior officer, more attuned to what's going on in the world. And it really wasn't.
We may get sent there one day.
Yeah, we might get sent there tomorrow, not one day. It's. I remember that. It's. People were shocked that we're going to Kuwait, we're going to Iraq, we're going to Saudi Arabia. What?
Yeah,
we didn't train for this.
Like you call an infantryman or a paratrooper a foul-mouthed diplomat. Really.
Well, there's a lot of truth in that statement. Whether you want to be as a soldier or not, you are America's diplomats. I remember
That's right.
In Bosnia and Herzegovina, General Grange was the commander of the 1st Armored Division when they went down there. And the Serbs were trying to provoke our scout platoon that was up on the Birchko Bridge, which goes into Serbia across the Sava River. And they just kept coming up every day and making noise and menacing. And these are young kids, 18, 19 years old, sitting up there with a cruise serve weapon on top of a Bradley. And it was getting quite hairy. There were thousands of people, and these kids were a little nervous. So General Grange just got smart. He just, when they went away at that night, he pulled them. There was no one there to protest against the next day.
Right.
So then he just started flying Apache helicopters over the houses of the leaders
really
of the
low,
Serbs.
and everybody stays inside.
Yeah. So I mean, they called it crazy, but it was effective, man. It was effective. Sometimes you got it's right. You got to have a deterrence there. Yeah. And that's one of the problems in South Africa is there's no deterrence to the crime that's going on, John. It's truly horrific crime.
Here's a learning point right here. I made that statement about, you got to stand up for yourselves, and somebody responded here. We are way outnumbered, 51 million people in South Africa, and only just over 4 million of them are white. And somebody else underneath them said, unable to stand up against millions and millions who don't like us that much. So that could be a bit of an issue. I mean, especially when it comes to politics and stuff.
Can I jump in on that one real quick?
Squeaky wheel gets the oil, the loudest voice gets the attention. And if you got millions and millions in politics, supporting politicians that don't like you, you're going to lose out.
But this isn't a situation that should be white against black like apartheid. This is against citizens of a country that should be free. Not white against black. It should be against the citizens. It should be about the citizens.
Also, let me clarify some things too, because I take issue with it. First off, the numbers are incorrect. There's 4.8 million white people in South Africa. There's 63 million people total. So it's even worse ratio than what someone just said. But that isn't really the real ratio. There aren't 42 million black South Africans that hate white South Africans that want to kill them. the number of people that believe this is actually relatively small, in the tens of thousands, maybe a few 100,000. That's still plenty of people, but spread out over a country size bigger than Texas. That's quite a distance there. So it's not nearly as bad as you think it is. The people who are saying this, you're taking a scenario that's not real and you're blowing it up in your mind. And so I think it's very important to understand that white South Africans, Afrikaners in particular, tend to have a lot of allies and friends amongst other ethnic groups, whether they realize it or not. For instance, the Swana-speaking peoples of the Northwest Province, 2.5 million of them, by and large, tend to be friends and allied and associated with the Afrikaners who are there because they have a long history together, fighting against alien invaders together. So, I mean, you can't just stereotype 43 million people. That's a dangerous path to go down, and I think it's unproductive. I think, Todd, that's kind of what you were alluding to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, correct. And don't think of it as, one group against the next. It's like freedom-loving people against people who want to oppress you. You outnumber them. You outnumber them for sure.
Absolutely. So, basically there was a movie based on a true story about the English military fighting the Zulu tribe way back.
Great movie.
They were so outnumbered, and these just a small group of men fighting this huge warrior tribe. And at the end of the day, a lot of them fell. Majority of them fell.
Sure.
But they conquered.
There's two movies. There's Zulu and Zulu Dawn. Zulu is the better movie. That's the first ever motion picture starring Michael Caine. He played Lieutenant Bromhill Gomvid. Is that something like that? He's a British officer, and then there was Lieutenant John Shard, who was their chief engineer. Anyway, that was the Battle of Rorke's Drift, a small station on the border of KwaZulu-Natal, entering Zulu country. They were attacked by 4,000 Zulus who were upset that they didn't get to take part in the big battle that took place about 12 miles from there in a place called Isandlwana. At Isandlwana, the leader of the British forces split his column into three groups and then went off looking for the enemy, splitting his forces up. That's, guys, we know, Todd, not a good idea, especially when you go on the offensive. If you're doing a reconnaissance and force is different, but that's not what they were doing. They're trying to find them and eliminate them. So he split his forces and left a contingent of about 1,500 trains and reservists and some, I think, one infantry battalion back there, something like that. And then the Zulu, 20,000 of them came in force and attacked. And their tactics were brilliant. The guys could fire and then they had to reload. So when they fired, they would drop to the ground and then rush and then drop as they're getting ready to fire again. And so they didn't kill too many of them. And the British were often portrayed in a very bad light at the Battle of Isandlwana, but those who fought bravely to their deaths. And the Zulu warriors who survived that battle talked about the courage of these soldiers who fought to the very death, despite having multiple wounds, being stabbed by spears and such. And some of them retreated up this mountain, which looks like a sphinx's head, Isandlwana. And as they got up as high as they could, they were breaking the butts of their rifles, fighting off the Zulu, and eventually were all killed. Yeah, it's a heck of a story. But that's Isandlwana. There was a regiment, or impi as they call it, that could not engage. The Zulu king would let him go in. So I think one of them was like the nephew or brother of the king. So he misbehaved. Otherwise, probably would have been executed for breaking the king's rules. But he ran off and went to that station, and they attacked the station with about 100 British regulars there, a mixed match of troops, because it was kind of like a medical aid station for guys who were wounded or unfit for duty. And that is the single largest number of Victoria Crosses, kind of like the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah,
I think they gave 11 Victoria Crosses out for Rorke's Drift. It's amazing. That's a movie, Zulu, starring Michael Caine. It was brilliant. Really well done.
It was, but it was a true story. So
that's
why I brought it up. So it's not a matter of fiction. And so a handful of people can make a big difference. That's the whole point. A handful of people can make a big difference.
And good strategy can make a difference too. They didn't have automatic weapons, but what they did is they took the grain bags and they stacked them and they made different levels. So one level was firing, the next level was loading, and the top one was, so they went through basically creating automatic fire with 3 levels. It was just amazing as they got closed in and the Zulu came in on them. And they took a lot of them out, but they won the battle and they won the respect of the Zulu for that battle. But the guy who did it was lucky to get killed. Okay, that's going to be it, folks, for this hour. We'll be back at the next hour with more. We'll talk about Joe Biden's cancer and South Africa. We'll see you in the next hour.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. Tonight or tomorrow, there could be a vote on the multi-trillion-dollar budget measure in the House. After meeting with his most conservative fellow Republicans about it, who want more Medicaid and other cuts, Speaker Mike Johnson.
And we had a good discussion. I think we're in a very good place. I think that all of our colleagues here will really like this final product, and I think we're going to move forward.
Some Democratic congressmen calling the bill a big tax scam. President Trump at the White House with the South African president showed a video and media clippings alleging genocide of white farmers in that country. President Cyril Ramaphosa pointing out there's no proof and denying it, then alluding to the gift by Qatar of a jumbo jet to Mr. Trump.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I would take it.
The Pentagon confirms that Elon Musk was at the Pentagon today and met with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to discuss artificial intelligence. A down day on Wall Street. This is ABC News. Another drop, ABC's Eva Pilgrim.
Sales at Target are down. The retail giant releasing its first quarter numbers this morning, seeing a pretty sizable dip, $23.8 billion compared to $24.5 billion for the same time last year. The CEO calling this a highly challenging environment, saying it's not satisfied with recent performance, announcing it's made leadership changes and created a new acceleration office to make faster progress.
Target acknowledging customer boycotts over the rollback of diversity, equity, inclusion policies also did damage. A mural now featured on a wall outside Chicago's Guaranteed Rate Field, where then Father Robert Prevost attended Game 1 of the White Sox 2005 World Series. Includes a screenshot of the game's broadcast featuring Pope Leo sitting next to Eddie Schmidt IV.
When all this transpired, I looked back and I said, is that the Pope next to me? And sure enough, it was.
Schmidt's grandfather's good friends with the Pope. Chuck Severson, ABC News.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I was always tired with weekly bouts of indigestion. A friend asked me, when was the last time you did a detox? Never, I said. So she recommended Active Liver.
Our liver works hard every day to remove toxins from processed foods and unclean air and water. But too many toxins can overwhelm the liver, causing it to actually store toxins in our body fat. Low energy, brain fog, headaches, bloating, and skin irritation are all telltale signs that we need to act. Water or juice fasts can help, but often require days or weeks of feeling tired and sick. Thankfully, there's an easier way. Active Liver from New Nordic is a natural supplement that helps your liver effectively eliminate toxins on a daily basis, leaving you feeling better with more energy and less bloating.
Within a week of taking Active Liver, I was feeling better, and now I have more energy than I've had in years.
Available in both tablet or delicious gummies, you can find Active Liver online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com or in stores at your local CVS or Meijer grocery.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program. Just a second here. That was odd. Right. Something wrong with my headphones. Now we're good. And there's my camera. a little bouncing there. Something odd going. Welcome back to the program, folks. We're in for the second hour. Now we're going to turn our attention over to the United States a little bit here. And so I think one of the first things we should talk about here, Todd, is the gift from Qatar, which is being falsely portrayed as a gift to Donald Trump and a bribe to Trump. But this gift was gifted to the United States Air Force, unless I missed the beat. And it's a 747.
Right. Yep. It's a 747. Was it a 400, I think, model, I believe. So it's a little bit longer up top or something like that. The current Air Force one is 747-200 model, which was one of the earliest ones they came out with outside of the first production model. But yeah, it's an Air Force aircraft. Sorry, they're going to use it however they want to. Great gift. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, it's a $400 million plane that's been given to the United States. It is secondhand.
I think it's just for use, right? It's not for, yeah.
They're going to use it for Air Force One because the Boeing is delayed at delivering the 2 planes they owe us. They got a $4 billion contract that they got in 2018, and they still haven't finished these 2 aircraft for the president.
And remember, whenever Trump signed that in that contract in his first term, and originally those airplanes were earmarked to go to Russia. They had purchased them, but they never paid it off to accept delivery, and that's how the Air Force got them. And the left raised heck about that, saying, "Oh, the Russians could hide things on there. They could be spying or something like that." I'm like, they're going to gut those planes and basically rebuild them into an Air Force aircraft. I mean, to be a flying White House, they're gutted.
When they build Air Force One, there's nothing's held back. I mean, the things that they put on Air Force One, I had a brother-in-law that worked for Boeing, or not Boeing, for BAE, and he couldn't tell me, like Chris, there's a lot of things he couldn't tell you, but what he was implying and what he was saying, it's an incredible amount of technology, incredible amount of work. That thing will, like you said, it'll be stripped down to nothing and put back together, and there will be things on there that you haven't even heard of as far as technologies go.
Oh, come on. I've seen it all, man. I've seen Harrison Ford in Air Force One. I know what's on the plane.
The flying capsule or the parachuting capsule.
Escape capsule. I don't think
the escape pod. Yeah.
Gary Oldman.
The president's put in an escape capsule. Then all of a sudden he's no longer the president. He can't be president if he's basically in the wild, if you will, or in the wind. He doesn't have any command and control. He has no Secret Service. He has no military. He's no longer president once he gets an escape pod, right?
Plus he can't fight back.
Right.
I think I like the president Bill Pullman in was it Independence Day? That was
Independence Day. Yeah, he was great. Yeah,
where he fought the aliens.
He played in the later one as a former president. He was more salty. He kind of looked more like you with the beard and everything. I love it.
Yeah, that was pretty good stuff. Yeah, no, but so the Air Force is taking delivery of an aircraft, a 747 from Qatar, and the left is melting down. Mazie Hirono, the malcontent from Hawaii, is moaning about this, among others. I don't know what the problem is here. It's it's not a bribe. I mean, Qatar promised to spend $5.3 trillion building capacity in America. So where's the bribe here? What are they getting for it? They're spending money here. I mean, it's not like we agreed to spend $5.3 trillion $1 billion inside of Qatar. We never did that.
No,
it's the other way around. So these people are idiots.
And I'm hearing people say, "Oh, this is it is a bribe to Trump because after he leaves office, it'll go to his museum or something like that." It's like that plane's going to stay into service. If they use it 20 or 30 years or more. The current one came into service during George H.W. Bush's first administration. In fact, from his first few days in office, they weren't even using the 747. But within like a first 100 days, I think they had the 747 and he was using it. So many years. Reagan Nancy Reagan designed some of the interior of one of the first aircraft, 8000. So to give you an idea of how old these aircraft are, the current Air Force One aircraft.
Well, Todd, I've only been on Air Force One vicariously through watching, Harrison Ford. Have you actually been on Air Force One with the White House Communications Agency?
I've been on the planes. I've never flown on it as Air Force One, though. I've flown on Air Force Two probably 100 times or more with the
vice president.
Vice president, yeah.
Okay, so you've flown on the planes, but they weren't designated Air Force One while you were on them.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that's important to understand.
I've just walked on 8000 and walked around, never flew on it.
Gotcha. But I think for people to understand, it's not Air Force One unless the president is on it. Same with the helicopter. It's not Marine One unless the president's on it, correct?
Correct. Yep, you're correct. They're called Nighthawks. So Nighthawk One would be transition to Marine One once the president steps on board. And of course, the pilot would notify air traffic controller, Nighthawk One is now Marine One. That's pretty simple.
Since we're talking about helicopters in D.C., I mean, while I was gone, I guess they released more information about that horrific midair collision, and they're blaming it on the female Army pilot, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I think they are. And then, of course, there's been a lot of stories that have come out. And, of course, it's through social media, so I don't know what's credible.
What the truth is, yeah.
Right. Yeah, a lot of stories about her, and she had a lot of certain issues or whatever. I don't know. But we'll see.
Yeah, but now they're piecing together saying that she didn't follow instructions from the instructor pilot and from the tower. So, that seemed like that. I'm not trying to blame the pilot, but it seemed like that might have been what it was initially. I mean, that's because the whole thing was odd. They've always been there. They've always been begging for trouble. Those corridors are so tight there, and of course, I know that spot. I used to work right there at Bowling Air Force Base, and I used to run right by that every day.
Yeah, I used to run right there on the river wall right there. Yeah, on a regular
same
basis.
here. And the thing I hate about the river is the wind was brutal, man. That was always strong wind
God, in
down there.
wintertime? No, forget that. I'm staying inside.
Well, I would run up MLK, which is that like almost straight uphill just outside
Yeah.
the gate. Oof, that was
Oh, yeah.
brutal too. But it was preferable to running into that wind. That wind, I would get out there. It's like, wow, I'm now running a 20-minute mile, not a 6-minute mile. This is really slowing you down, hit you in the face. All right. So, John, we're getting a new plane, but did you hear about the U.S. credit rating? Our credit has been downgraded. Did you hear about that?
No. What? How could it be?
Well, I mean, there's good reason for it to be downgraded, but I think this is a political move by Moody's, the ratings agency, that has downgraded our credit from AAA to A1 or something like that, which is the next level down, because we have a pile of debt. But we had a pile of debt in January. They didn't downgrade it then. And the Treasury almost set a record for revenue last month. In April of this year, they had the second highest ever amount of money came into we had a surplus of $258 billion more money coming into the Treasury than went out. Yet they downgraded our credit. Now, this is because we owe like $38 billion or so $35 billion, but or $1 trillion, whatever it is. Yeah, $1 trillion. But that money that's been there for years. So they wait until Trump is president and then they downgrade. This is a purely political thing as far as I'm concerned, Todd.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Yeah, you just wait till after that 100 days. What we're into the second 100 days. All of a sudden, let's get him now. You know, he'll have a few wins, a few losses. Let's see where we're going to go. Then we'll zing him.
But Joe Biden had the greatest economy ever. Didn't you hear?
Well, yeah,
more and more jobs. He made so many jobs. It wasn't jobs coming
them.
back from COVID, right? I mean, he must have been creating jobs out of thin air.
Yeah, no, I got you. In the chat from my channel, Van is here. Says, should the air traffic control pick up when pilots make errors? Yes, but you have to understand the volume of traffic, the speed things are moving, the distance here was very narrow. And they did. They told them to change course and to vector in different, and it didn't happen. The pilots were talking over the tower, if I understand the story correctly. It's still being pieced together, but it's not a good story. And it was entirely unnecessary. It's entirely human error. It never should have happened. Regardless of the fault, never should have happened. And I really feel bad for all those people. It's horrific tragedy. Yeah, and then we had all those aviation mishaps. Had that plane flip over in Canada, sliding down the runway. Did you see that?
Oh,
that's just crazy. All that stuff happening around the same time, but things have calmed back down since then, and getting back to a little more rational thing. And I'm glad because I just got off a plane. You know, I don't want to hear about aircraft accidents when I'm flying. That's not a fun thing.
The Canadian flight, they released some expert pilot who made a statement about that landing was a perfect landing, and it was just a matter of an act of God or whatever. And then somebody else was saying, no, the pilot was customarily trying to because the plane makes corrections during landing or something, but she overrid it or something like that. And that's what actually caused. I don't know if that's entirely true or not either, but I thought it was interesting though, because they put the expert pilot out there to tell everybody what a great job they were doing landing the plane. Well, you see some of them come in sideways and some of them manage to land the plane without wrecking it.
Right. Have you ever seen some of those videos of some of those? There's a couple of airfields in the world that are really precarious, and they got high winds. And these planes come in. It's almost like they're parasailing, like the wings, like whoa, man, they're gonna land. No, but I remember I flew back from Lisbon once. It was a trip to Portugal for the government, and we're flying. I think it was Continental still then. It hadn't united with merge or had to merge with United yet. It hadn't united with United yet, so it was still Continental at that time. And coming back from there to, I think it was to Newark is where I was going. I only flew about an hour, and then it felt like the plane was flying at high altitude and slowly turning around. It was kind of odd. And then they finally told us that there was a problem. They're heading back. Well, they couldn't get the landing gear to retract. You can't fly across the Atlantic at minus 100 degrees. You know, that metal will fracture. Either the tensile strength will be gone. It has to be folded up. So they had to come back. And
the wind drag itself would kill the fuel. You wouldn't make it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We'd run out of fuel. So we had to burn as much fuel as we could at a lower altitude there, and and without dumping it. And we came back and landed. But it was a pretty amazing event. This is the time when we opened up the doors and the ramp came out, inflated, but then they wouldn't let us out because apparently the brakes were on fire or were smoky or something like that.
Wow.
So we eventually were stuck on the plane for a little bit, and they brought the ladder up, so we went down the normal way. Anyway, but long story short is there was a problem with an Airbus series that had their defective landing gear, and I remember I think it was in San Diego or Long Beach, one of those airports. There was a pilot in the U.S. flying one of those Airbus and couldn't get the landing gear to extend. He landed on, remember that? He landed on the fuselage and went right perfectly down the center, right down the line of the runway, and stopped. And we were all amazed. And aviators like, well, that's pilots are supposed to. I'm like, okay, if you say so, man. I'll tell you what, if somebody told me that the wheels came out from under my car, I wouldn't be so calm, That was pretty wild, but I never forget that. And that was just a couple months after I'd had that experience on the Continental flight. I'm like, I know that plane. That's an Airbus with defective landing gear.
You always got the incident in the Hudson River there where he loses all engines due to ducks and somehow managed to glide this thing into the river. Remember?
Quack.
What was his name? I forgot his name. They made
Sully.
Captain Sully,
yes.
He didn't hit ducks. Come on.
No.
Where did he get ducks at, man? Where did that come from?
Wasn't it some ducks or something that went into the engines and took the engines out?
With all the beards and stuff.
Oh, it was a bird strike. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, John's making fake news here, man. Stop it. You're gonna ruin credibility, man.
I thought it was ducks. They said that ducks will fly pretty darn high too.
No, Sully said duck, and then they hit him. That's what happened.
Oh, okay. Bunch of wise guys. You know what, Todd? You're a racist.
Oh, where did that come from?
Last week, Todd. So what was it? We were talking about OJ. And,
OJ, yeah.
I didn't like what he. Oh no, I said I set him up is what I did. I said, so you think OJ's guilty? He goes, oh yeah, of course I think he does. I go, you're racist, Todd.
Yeah, he set me up for that one. Then you're racist. Of course, OJ.
So I decided every time I don't like what I'm hearing, I'm gonna be like the liberal left. You're a racist.
Guys, can you believe OJ Simpson is dead? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, and I don't think of OJ as an old guy,
bro.
Yeah, I don't think of OJ as an old guy, man. I still think of the juice, or those silly. What's commercial? Wasn't Avis? Who did he do the Hertz? That's right, Hertz. Yeah, he ran through the airport. Yeah, and then he also played on the not the Police Academy, but the others movies that were.
Yeah. That was Frank Drebin, Police Squad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. Yeah, it's no, it's the juice, man. I can't believe he's gone. That's crazy. It's
Yeah, he was kind of like an icon back in the day, back in the 70s and stuff.
Oh, he was huge. Remember, he got 2,003 yards, the first person to ever get 2,000 in a 14-game season, too.
Right.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Duck strike. Exactly right. It was a duck strike.
I thought it was ducks. Whatever. It was birds.
It was a bird strike of some sort.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it was a duck. We don't know. I mean, they didn't dissect the duck out of the engine after they recovered the aircraft from the Hudson River. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I met a Vietnam veteran that made a belly up landing on an aircraft carrier. He says he showed photos, and I'm like, wow. I believe you. I believe you. He's like, what Sully did is nothing. He's like, look at this. I did that. I'm like, well, that's a lot better than what Sully did for sure. But Sully kept everybody alive, though. You only had a co-pilot.
Wait a minute now. If you're in a fighter jet, I've seen images of fighter jets where they'll nose dive to the ground and pop it, where they'll deflect the wind to catch the air in their wings and then land it down in the.
Oh yeah. They'll just
fighter jets. They can pull some stunts, but
right, yeah, and they'll just kind of tilt it up, and then all of a sudden,
yes.
They try to
basically they're using the force of their exhaust to keep them afloat for a second.
Yeah, I think naval aviators call it landing on the numbers or something like that, right?
I'm not sure.
Because at the lead edge of any runway, you have the numbers, which is basically the direction of the runway. That's how you determine the number of a runway is the azimuth of the runway. It's not like
Todd was trying to set me up for more fake news.
No, I'm saying, but the naval aviators would try to land on the numbers versus the stripes, which is where you generally try to land, is around the stripes or a little after.
Yeah.
So that way you're on the runway for sure, because you can kind of look out, and say, okay, I got it. Boom. Hit your target.
Well, guys, we've had quite an interesting audience here tonight. Someone in from Russia. We have people from South Africa here, people from Europe, people from all over the United States listening in tonight. Yes. And now we have someone from Wyoming. Dan Bailey's joined us tonight from my channel. Dan, of course, is one of 36 people live in the state of Wyoming. Dan, welcome to the program tonight. Good to see you there. But John, we're going to take a little detour here talking about geopolitics. We have a question here that's related to the trucking industry. Van asks, being in transport, does the U.S. have a service where a pickup and compressor goes to trucks and change tires when they have blowouts? Yes. Usually more than one or two.
Yeah. We have service calls. That's what we call service calls. And you have a tire guy come out with a utility truck with tires and such, and do tire changes on the side of the road. And dangerous work if they're on the interstate or highway. But yep, it's done.
There you go. Well, what if they're in Wyoming, man? There's like 36 people there. You're really screwed.
Yeah, I think there's a few. I happen to know somebody who runs a shop in Wyoming.
Really? It's small world.
Busy, yeah.
I'll bet they stay busy. It's a pretty awesome place. Wait, I've told my audience they shouldn't go to Wyoming. I got to stop talking about Wyoming. Idaho,
Yeah,
that's
you
where you
can't
want to
trash
go.
talk on these shows because sooner or later, something like California, right? You can say all the trash you want to, and then somebody comes in and goes, "That's my home state. Who are you to talk that way?"
Have you guys seen the baby Trump memes? They're hilarious. Oh, they're too funny. I love the one where he says, "Hey, hello, America. How y'all doing well out there? Unless, of course, you're in California." So baby Trump. It's too funny. Anyway, all right. So we've answered the trucking question.
Ones too.
What's that?
I've seen the Cheech and Chong ones.
Oh, I haven't seen those. I bet those are hilarious.
Yeah, they are. They're good.
Yeah.
No, but of
AI
course,
is awesome, right? We found the best use for AI is to entertain us by making little baby memes.
Baby memes. Yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt, man. When they start using that stuff to.
Oh yeah, and it will be used once it gets just a little bit better. It will be used to mess people over for sure.
Well, I think we've already been using AI for malicious purposes. We had a robot pretending to be Joe Biden for the past 3 years.
Yeah, right.
Yikes! No, but it's look. I'm not a fan of AI. I'm still fearful of Skynet. I'm waiting for Terminators to show up here one day. Just a matter of time. Anyway, Slinky, what's this?
Well, Elon Musk was at the DoD today at the Pentagon talking it over, talking AI with the SecDef.
Cora, I'm sure he is. He wants to get all into AI.
We need a robot army of robots like me, Elon robots. He's kind of botty, the way he's mannerisms, the way he jumps around and stuff. He's smart as heck. But he's
does
like
he glitch like AI?
He's glitchy. He's kind of like Data, maybe on Star Trek: The Next Generation, TNG.
Well, I want one of those really cool things you jump into, like on Aliens that Sigourney Weaver had, the lift.
That big thing. Big arm.
And short of that, those ones you see in Avatar, those are super cool, man. That's what I want. That'd be awesome, man. That'd be awesome to be a soldier with one of those things, man. You could just take out anything. Avatar was a pretty cool movie. But of course, it was very woke. I mean, if you could ignore the woke aspect, that would be evil corporations strip mining the planet, killing the indigenous population. Yeah, we got the parallels, man. We caught on. We're not that slow. Anyway,
right.
But those baby Trump things are really funny, man. So I'm harping on that. So, guys, you haven't asked me anything about my trip to South Africa, Todd.
Nothing.
I know I'm
Well,
leading the show tonight, but here's your chance to ask me.
You were over there. What, basically, let's call it a month, roughly.
Just a little over a month, yes.
Okay. So how many engagements did you have that were planned or just were impromptu, if you will?
Well, I had 18 meet and greets.
Wow.
that I scheduled over the course of that time. That none of them were planned ahead of time because I didn't tell people I was coming initially. And then I also had a event in Uppington, and then a lecture in Rondebosch, which is Cape Town. So 20 events in about 30 days. It's exhausting, man. And it's not like my typical meet and greets, which I've done in the past, where we hang out at a restaurant, we have some eat, maybe a drink or two, and I chat with people, maybe take a few selfies. We talk about things, I answer questions. No, because the refugee program, man, my average length of one of these things is 4 to 5 hours. And I'm talking for 4 to 5 hours, shaking hands, meeting people. And it's no wonder I got sick. I hugged over 2,000 people, shook over 4,000 hands. So it's not surprising I picked up some crud from somewhere. But yeah, it was insane. I had over 1,400 people, an average of 78 people per event over the course of that time. And that doesn't include those other two events I mentioned. It was epic. I'm tired. I need some rest.
Well, Colonel Chris Wyatt for South African president.
I don't know about that. I'm
There
not
we
South
go.
African.
Solve some problems.
We've seen you most active or talkative since you left for South Africa. Your hour's beautiful, but you were pretty wiped out time when you got on this show.
Yeah, that's true. And I apologize for that. That's why we only do the 1 hour
okay.
when I'm on the road, because, it's for me, I'm getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's after I've been working probably till 11:30 at night and just take a quick nap and come on. So I'll try to, next time I go, I'll try to space it a little bit better. But I mean, guys, I make a plan and I leave a little window so I get some rest, and then it just fills up. This person wants to see me. They want me to speak here. They want me to do this. They want me to do that. So I went to the KwaZulu-Natal province down on the southeast coast. That's the subtropical area of South Africa. And my intent was just to go visit my friend John Tungay. He's the founder of the Drakensberg Boys Choir, world-renowned boys choir from the 1960s when he founded it. So John turns 89 this month. And, when someone's that age, I don't mean to be morose, but, if you go that far and you don't visit someone at that age, you might regret it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I went out of my way to see John and his wife, Paula, and they're lovely people, and I stayed with them. But people said, we want to meet and greet. So I scheduled a meet and greet. So I got there on a Sunday after flying in from Cape Town. And then I drove up to their place and stayed there. And then the next day I had lunchtime, had a meet and greet, and then left the next morning. But I was just supposed to go back to Durban and relax for a couple of days. But nope, a shoe company, Jim Green Shoe Company, which is a well-known brand of making boots. They make incredible, all South African made, something called the African Ranger style, which they've sold 100,000 of those in 3 years. But anyway, so they wanted to give me a pair of boots. Okay, so I went there, went to the factory, filmed the factory, and then gave me a pair of boots. They're awesome. I actually wore them yesterday all day long during the elections for about 17 hours. They're very comfortable. And then from there, this other company wanted to give me these free flip-flops. I don't wear flip-flops, but it's okay. So I went there. Then I had a meet and greet in this town called Bolito. And then I finally got back in the evening. And that's just kind of how the pace went. And everywhere I went, that's my days just filled up, which I'm not complaining.
No,
it's amazing for people to want to talk to you and hang out with you and see you.
That's a good problem to have, by the way.
Right. But a Sunday before that, I was in the Cape Town area, and I had a meet and greet in Woodbridge Island, which is down close to Cape Town. And then I drove north, and that was on Easter. I spent Easter Sunday with Rob Hersoff, a very famous guy from South Africa, with him and his family. Lovely experience. And then I left there to go have a meet and greet the same day. So my second meet and greet plus spending the afternoon with the family at Langebaan. And it was just crazy. Throughout the country, everywhere I went, the final total was of 160 people who came up to me and said, "Hey, Colonel Wyatt, hey, Chris, how you doing?" 160 times it happened to me in a month. That's insane.
That is cool.
Incredible.
In the chats here, Van says he shook your hand and upping him, but didn't say anything. I was like, next time you let him know what you think about it.
Van is trying to be he's trying to be incognito. He doesn't want no one to know his identities. He's very generous, supporting my program and also a couple other folks. But I think if he supported my program instead of those guys mine exclusively, I'd be happier. But no, I'm just kidding. No, but Van is trying to fly under the radar. But I'm scouring
Leon
my mind
says
about
you're good company, by the way, here.
So
thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm kind of curious. What was Francois' operations?
Huh?
Colonel, tell them about my operations. I'm
saying
Francois. I don't know if that's correct pronunciation. I'm assuming it's a French. I don't know.
Francois de Jaeger.
What did he say?
I don't.
He said, "Colonel, tell them about my operations." Don't tell me. I know you didn't forget him.
Okay, he's talking about Piketberg. Okay, really? You want me to tell him that? Okay.
He said it in the chat. So you got it.
Okay. Well, I thought that was a state secret, man. No, so Francois is a great guy, wonderful family. He kind of needled me and pestered me for a long time. I'm just kidding. He's like, "You got to come see this guy." So I'm like, "Dude, okay, relax." Okay, well, no, but we were able to work it out where I went up there and I checked out his operation. It's a private company set up all on his own, and they've got surveillance and they monitor things, and they're actually more responsive than the police or emergency services, and people turn to them all the time. It's absolutely amazing. They have an incredible facility, but they had a fire there recently. I don't know what the extent of the damage was after I was there. It was pretty amazing. So lovely family. It's great to see them. And it was nice to go up there and see the operations. Pretty incredible. They do some great stuff. I mean, I can imagine if to my knowledge, he's funded this on his own and done a great job on it. But I mean, if it's just something that had a lot of funding, it could do some truly amazing things. But when I was there, I could see that like the police couldn't even talk to each other from one police station to another because their networks weren't linked and they just made no effort to fix it. So they had a hard time reaching each other. And he's able to relay messages and link them through his networks. Pretty good stuff. So is that what you want me to talk about, Francois? I believe
so.
I hope that did the trick there. It was really impressive. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I haven't told anybody about that. I thought it was a state secret, man. I wasn't telling anybody about that operation.
So they got like what privatized? What is it? Security, right? So it's like privatized policing, but it's security.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it paid per call? So like I call their emergency services. They answer the call for whatever reasons.
Well, he set up a nonprofit that was doing some of this, and so people make donations, things like that. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember exactly the funding model, but he pretty much funded all on his own. The site that they're using, they purchased, and it was already pre-built. So yeah.
So what happens as far as authority goes? So like here in the United States, police hold legal authority.
Well, I mean,
so when they're answering a call, are they not jeopardizing their freedoms per se, or putting themselves in legal jeopardy?
That's part of the problem. It's a sticky wicket. You got to be careful. You can't just go out and start shooting people. That's a challenge for them. So that's why I haven't talked about the operation. I don't want to misstate that or put anybody in a kind of mess. But they got to be very careful about it. But as far as interfering with the police, you don't have to worry about that. They never show up. they just don't show up. That's why people call him and they call his organization because the cops don't come.
Back in the days when we had that issue, it was the mafia was running things. You just called the local mafia when you had a problem.
Whenever the police shows up, do they take a bribe to leave? If you don't want them there, like, here you go. Here's a hockey stick.
I am not going to answer that question. I don't know.
Right, no.
So Francois just got an interview through Chris Wyatt.
Yeah, no, it was great. He invited me out to check that out. And boy, I'll tell you what, the drive up to where it's located was unbelievable. It's a stunning drive up the side of a mountain. And then once you get up there, it's a huge, broad, escarpment on top of the mountain. It was really gorgeous. Really gorgeous. So anyway, Francois, I hope that, and it's for him, it's like 2:30 in the morning. So I'm guessing he's probably at work, monitoring what's going on. Yeah. Wow.
Well, if he's got time to be here, then it's good news because that means nothing terrible is happening at the moment. I hope.
Well, that's good news. Yes, because stuff can change very quickly in South Africa, and that's what part of the problem is here. Yeah. So wow, that was anyway. Like I said, I hadn't talked about this because I didn't know I was supposed to talk about it.
Wow,
thanks.
Thomas
Nobody
says,
knows me here.
Thomas says, just imagine California times 100. All right.
He's not too concerned with our 3 viewers.
3 viewers? What are you talking about?
Come on, go back to the old Arlene Bennett jokes here.
Oh, my mom. Geez, gosh. Yeah, she's the one who wrote me into this nonsense. That's how I got stuck doing this. Remember that, John?
She used to talk about Chris on the phone. And
gosh.
And one day I said, Chris, your son Chris sounds like an interesting person, Arlene. Why don't we have him on the show sometime? She goes, you want Chris on the show? I'm like, yeah, why not? He sounds like he's very intelligent, very knowledgeable. We should have him on and interview him. And Chris came on, and she was so excited to have Chris on the show she was doing. And he's been, he's I guess on several of our shows on TIBN, and Chris and I became friends out of it. And we decided to do this show.
Yeah, and then we found Todd somewhere. I don't know where he dug him up at.
Todd got involved with us in trucking and advocacy and stuff. He was running for office, and was it Gary Shaw, Todd, or somebody got you roped in about trucking issues, and you went to Matt's and hung out with us at Scott Jordan's booth for a while.
Yeah, it was Taylor got me into it. So
it's Taylor Barker.
Yeah, Taylor Barker got me into it. Who's from my hometown right here, lives just basically 10 minutes away. And he found me when I was running for office. We talked trucking issues. He got me connected with a lot of people, and he invited me up to Matt's. And he said, "I'm going to introduce you to a lot of people. Going to get you on some shows." I mean, he got me on XM radio, Sirius, all these things, all sorts of shows. And then I got on some national stuff and got interviewed, which was kind of great.
Yeah, so
big time.
Todd did one of our shows previously before we created this, and I thought, you know what? If we got Todd, Chris, and myself on a show, we might actually have something.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we kind of meshed together and we came up with the name. If you remember, we
said what are we going to call it the name, and then we were only on internet first. We weren't even on a terrestrial radio station, and then we got this offer, and the money was too good, $2.5 million per year for each of us. Yeah, we get $2.5 million in Zimbabwean dollars every year, whether we like it or not. So
you're going to take it.
I use it to paper the walls in my den, the Zimbabwe dollars. No, but no, it's the next thing you know, we've been doing this for going on 5 years now. My goodness.
It's fun. I love it.
But my mom is the one that wrote me into this because she's like, can you call in? I called in. I didn't know what was going on. And I'll talk to anybody. And then I remember that you guys, Todd, not Todd, excuse me, John, I don't remember who else was on, or if it was my mom and you, but you had
Sean
Doug
back then.
Okay, but you had Doug on from Pennsylvania. He was going to run for governor later. My friend.
Yes, we did. That was funny because I sent you a message. Hey, we got Doug on. I can't think of his last name now.
Mastriano.
Mastriano.
Yeah.
We got Doug on Mastriano.
Colonel,
We're interviewing him right now.
Mastriano.
So Chris is like, I sent him a link and he came in, and
I was
like a reunion between Doug and Chris.
Yeah,
I was exercising.
My podcast too. That's
how
you
were
met
running.
Colonel Mastriano.
Yeah, no. So I was out exercising. You're like, can you call in? I'm like, sure. So I exercising when I was still in condition and shape before my hip became a problem. And I was out walking around a local park and talking to you guys. It was pretty cool. My mom was on there, and John, the reason I mentioned all this about my mom a couple of times is that I kind of got the feeling my mom wanted me to do something with you guys and do a program. It was kind of a legacy thing for her. I mean, that's the feeling I got.
She loved trucking, and we did trucking stuff, and so she was so into it. Your mother was a sort of person. She was going to go to the event in DC. We had these events in 2017. We had organized this huge event, and she was on her way out the door. I don't think she got 30 miles down the road, got rear-ended, and kind of racked her back up a little bit. She did what she had to do for the accident, got in her car and just headed for DC. She was nothing was stopping her. She just loved it. She loved the advocacy. If you were standing up for trucking, you were a friend. Chris's mother was the sort of person that if a truck driver got stranded, she sent cards to the local police departments and stuff like that, the highway patrol. So if a truck driver got stranded, they would call her, and she would actually fish money out of her pocket or her savings to make sure he got home.
Wow, that's great.
She put herself out there. She's great people.
Yeah, she is, and she's been gone for a couple of years now, and it kind of sucked how she went because of the COVID nonsense. She didn't have COVID, but she couldn't get her proper cancer treatments because she wouldn't let her go to the hospital, and then it spread throughout her body in 90 days. But it's when she was at the end there, she was in hospice. But I got up to see her about a month before she died. I went up to Ohio, and she was in hospital, and I went in, and she was sleeping, and I stayed with her for a while. She woke up, and she goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I mean, you're not well. You didn't have to come up here." I said, "Yes, I did have to come up here." And so I spent some time with her over a couple of days, and that was the last I saw my mom. I left, and then a month later she passed away. She was in hospice, and my little sister Jennifer called and said, "It's the end. It's she's not going to last much longer." And she couldn't talk, but she was lucid, and she could move her eyes and nod her head and everything. And so our childhoods aren't perfect, our lives aren't perfect, and our parents don't always do everything we hope they do. But I told her I thanked her for my life, because if she hadn't been, I hope she had a good time when the one I was conceived, but not a bad time that night. But
I was gonna. But in the back of my mind, I had a joke, and I was like,
"Yeah, no, don't do it, don't do it." No, but my point was,
did it for me. Thank you.
But I mean, I hope she had a good time that night, because I mean, something great came from my perspective. I was conceived, and if it had been that night, it would have been someone else. It wouldn't be me. That would have been a different. So I thank my mom for my life, and it was I thought that was appropriate.
You couldn't be here without her, Chris. No matter
Exactly. That's the point I make. If you are angry at your parents, or you can't come to grips, remember that if they had knocked boots, you wouldn't be around. And if you enjoy your life at all, you should be grateful for the fact that you exist. And so
they chose not to abort you, and even though they don't make perfect decisions, if they're not abusing you, beating you, or assaulting you sexually or something like that, or mentally abusing you, doing generally the best they can, and with morals
you
and values.
You didn't come with directions, bro.
Right? Yeah, they're doing.
That's for darn sure. We don't come with directions, and I tell you, some people really need instruction books. Some of the ones I've seen walking around kids.
A lot of people struggle in life, and they have a hard time. And I've had my troubles too. And I remember thinking when I was most down is, hey, look, if you got air in your lungs and you have a little food in your belly, you're still in the fight.
Yeah.
You talk about having hard times and stuff, and that's really the sum of it all. A lot of people get depressed and stuff. Everybody deals with it. Everybody deals with hard times. Even rich people deal with a lot of depression and hard times. Just because they're rich don't mean they have a great life. There's behind the scenes things happening with these people. I mean, look at Britney Spears. She's living evidence.
Geez, good Lord.
And but yeah, as long as you got life, you're in the fight, bro.
Yeah, of course, those two examples of people who were basically abused since they were kids in the entertainment industry, just a machine that just chews them up. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, they treated her like a slave, I mean, they held her captive, took her money, and they're still doing it. From my understanding, I mean, I'm hearing this speculatively. I don't know for fact myself, but something's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's cries for help going on here. Some of these videos coming out, they're making fun of her about, and something's going on.
Yeah. Well, she had a court case against her dad, a couple of years ago, and won like some emancipation thing or whatever. He was just stealing her money.
Yeah. Well, Michael Jackson's father did the same thing. Use him as cash cow.
Somebody just said that in the chat. Wow.
Did they? Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah. Wow.
Michael Jackson just felt. Yeah, he did have a hard time. So I mean, life's not about how wealthy you are or all the things you own, man. It's about how you cope with things and manage things. And no matter how hard you're down, man, you still got a chance.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I saw the advert during the break when the news was on about a book that's just been released about suicides amongst veterans, and the number of veterans who commit suicide.
The author is sitting right to the right of you.
Oh, that's your book, Todd.
That's my book. Yeah, it's.
I didn't realize that. I didn't see your name on it. I just
saw
this.
It was there. I don't. If I could read, because the prints.
No, I couldn't. Yeah, okay.
I was there because Todd talked about it last week, and so I thought, well, I'm going to make, instead of putting my stuff up there, the stuff for the affiliations and stuff. I thought, well, Todd's turn. Let's put his stuff up there.
Yeah. So that was the title is Left Behind. Is that correct?
Yeah, Those Left Behind: Veteran Suicide of my late best friend Brad Bush, and it's available on Amazon. And all the proceeds are going to go support the American Legion's Be the One campaign to help end veteran suicide.
It's really sad. I mean, and a lot. Look, it's Todd. I mean, we've served in uniform, served in combat. It's not easy for people. I mean, what we're asked to do is at times inhumane, and it goes against the better nature, your better angels.
Yeah,
To
I
do what
mean,
they have
you
to do.
see a little 10-year-old or 12-year-old walking with a suicide vest, knowing he's going to blow, several people up. What do you do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if it's not that, people are harmed, they have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
They struggle with mental illness at times because of the things they've had to deal with. Also, some people suffer from debilitating pain from injuries, losing limbs or having traumatic brain injury and things like that. The pain becomes unbearable for some people, and and society forgets. Society moves on. It's tough for veterans, and it's it's not
Right.
something I can't imagine ever contemplating something like that. And but that's me. I can't speak for millions of other veterans, and it's tragic to hear about this because we hear veterans in their 20s and their 70s and 80s killing themselves at times. It's I don't mean to be morose and talk about veteran suicide, but I saw the advert for your book there, and I thought we should mention here because this is a topic. I don't want to say there's no need for it, but if a veteran is suffering, there is a suicide helpline specifically for veterans the VA runs. You can get help. You can get help at any time. If you're homeless,
988.
yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
988 extension 1 if you're a veteran, and that'll take you to an actual veteran who's been in your situation, and they can talk to you and give you all sorts of advice, help you get counseling, or help you get treatment or into a facility that very day, that very night.
So, on the other
it's
side of
basically
that
a
coin,
guarantee they will get you somewhere safe.
on the other side of that coin, gentlemen, is it not so that when people are dealing with isolation, when they get depressed, they get isolate and they are not thinking about reaching out. So if you're an observer and finding a friend that's a veteran, or even if it's just non-veteran and somebody who's depressed, sometimes you got to reach out, kind of touch somebody, say, "Hey, man, you all right? What's going on?" Help you.
But that be the one program apparently is saving civilian lives as well, because now they know about the suicide hotline, which is also available to civilians as well, not just veterans.
Mm-hmm.
You just call, you just don't hit extension 1.
Yeah. So it's you don't have to be the veteran to call that number. You can call on someone's behalf and tell them about someone. It's the same thing with homelessness for veterans. There's no reason for a veteran to be homeless. Now, my point is that there are reasons, but the reasons are mental illness, choice, drug addiction, other addictions, things like that, where people don't want the help or they can't bring themselves to want the help. But there are resources so that no veteran would be homeless tonight if they all took advantage of it. And you just call the VA, and it doesn't have to be you. If I knew Todd's not homeless, but if Todd was homeless, I know about it, I could call on his behalf and say, listen, this guy, Todd McKinley, East Tennessee, in this town, Spartansburg, wherever he lives at, he's right here. Guy doesn't have a home. And then what they do is they put you in temporary accommodation right then. And they'll get you into a more permanent location facility near where you're at, and they'll take care of that for up to a year. But then you've got to sort yourself out. But the point is that we don't have to have homeless veterans. Well, I think what a lot of people, especially tourists who come to America, but not just tourists, but a lot of Americans, they see people in the streets who claim to be veterans, and there's an awful lot of stolen honor.
Oh, big time.
Stolen valor. People, homeless veteran, can't get a job, holding a sign up. Yeah, there are some homeless veterans like that, but many
wearing
of
an army
just,
sweatshirt and an Air Force hat,
Right. A lot of them are just, they're frauds. They're just trying to take advantage of people's good nature, because Americans, thankfully, are grateful to our veterans. They really are. We are so much more fortunate than the Vietnam era veterans, are we not, Todd?
Yes, sir. I believe you. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
They had a hard. Things
did.
shifted on them. So now you have an orientation process when you go to the military, boot camp and all that good stuff. But they orientate you to the military, tell you things you need to know about the military, so on and so forth, right? So do they have like a resocialization program or something when you're exiting the military to teach you about the things that are available to you and things that you may be looking forward to, or do they just kind of kick you in the butt and send you out?
No, there is an out processing. I can't remember what they call it now, the program, but you have a lot of different briefings you go to. You can also take different classes, resume writing, all sorts of stuff that's available to you. You also have some VSOs that will come talk, whatever. So it's gotten a lot better over the past, since 9/11, it's gotten a heck of a lot better because they're realizing that these guys are leaving not ready to, cope with civilian life. So the resources are available. I can't speak for every post, but whenever I left, I had a solid month of classes, which was great.
It's called the Transition Assistance Program.
There you go.
TAP.
Thank you. TAP.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so you actually can take it as many times as you like, as long as you can step away from work. So I took it at 18 months prior to my retirement. Then I took it at 12 months. I took it 6 months. But apparently I didn't listen. I got something wrong, but about my retirement physical, I thought I had to be done before I did the VA physical, but it all worked out in the end. No, so transition assistance program is something the Army didn't have 30 years ago. We didn't do this. The military didn't have it. And then we didn't have anything really to help people. You just got out. I got out of the Army in 87. All they did was kick me in the butt. Here's your discharge papers. Go register your DD 214 with the courthouse and don't come back. You know, that's pretty much what they said. And I left on good terms. Imagine what the people were in trouble like. So that was 87. Then by the time I got out of the Army again, which was in 2019, completely different world. They realized that they were doing veterans a huge disservice by not helping them transition and prep for life after the military. A lot of people, especially those who spend their entire adult life in uniform, have a very hard time transitioning back to being a civilian because you're part of a team, part of a cohort, and a mission accomplishment, mission focused, and you go back to society and things are different. And a lot of people, you know, their whole life becomes uniform. That was never the case for me. My whole life didn't become my social life. It didn't become uniform. I mean, I did my job, you know, and my motto was always mission first, duty always, soldiers to the end. However, I had a life outside of uniform. And when I transitioned, I mean, the only thing I missed was the loss of my housing allowance and the fact that I could, I missed that because that was nice, especially as a full colonel, man. You can imagine, Todd, what it was like. It was pretty good. Tax exempt income. I missed that. And I also miss saying that I'm a soldier. I love saying I was a soldier every day. I'm still a soldier, but I'm not serving right now. And so that's all that I miss. But a lot of guys, I went to Wyoming. I was invited by Wyoming Catholic College out in Leander, Wyoming, to do a program with them. We went out hiking up into the Wind River Range, and we did camping out there, and it was all about camaraderie. A bunch of former Special Forces guys. Now, I was asked to go on it, and I had been out of the Army 11 months when I did this. Some of these guys have been out 10, 15, 20 years, still having a very difficult time adjusting to post-military life because you know, especially the Delta Force guys and the SEALs had a really hard time. So I was surprised when they asked me to go, but they asked me to go because they saw that I was a person that adjusted very well to life after the military in less than a year. And they contacted me. I said, guys, look, I mean, this is for Special Forces. I'm not Special Forces. I'm an intel guy. I've worked with Special Forces extensively, but I'm not a Green Beret. I'm not a Delta Force guy. And so they actually talked to some of the guys who were involved in the program, and they're like, oh no, we know Colonel Wyatt. That guy's let him come. He's an intel guy. We respect him. So it was really cool. And I went out there, and my biggest concern was that I was a couple years older. Am I going to have to hump a ruck and everything? But I was just fine. I did okay. So it was really special. But guys, we sat around and we talked about how you adjust, how you deal with things. And it was very enlightening to see some of the struggles these guys are going through after years and years of being out of uniform. Quite interesting.
Speaking of intel guys, I mean, they could save your lives. Think about it. It's like before you go out on missions, sometimes you ask, "Hey, is there what's the situation out there? What's activity?" And we've had people come back and say, "Okay, you guys got to hold up because we spotted somebody planting a bomb on your route, and that saved our lives, probably." Think about that. And they couldn't tell you anything other than that. It's routes red at this point.
Well, one of the viewers here, Sergeant Buckstein, is saying that this is his nickname. They're saying that imagine being told this is your enemy. Yeah. And 2 years later, it's not your enemy, but they're in the same unit as you. What he's referring to, I believe, is the amalgamation of the Liberation Era movements into the South African Defense Force after the country was unified in 1994. And so all these forces that had been opposing each other suddenly were in the same unit. That's a transition. Wow. That's challenging.
That's amazing. I mean,
just hope they all remember now you're friends, right?
Think about what the good order and discipline was like whenever that happened. Oh my God.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Heinous. Yeah.
Anyway, hey, did I tell you guys about what happened with South Africa today?
What happened? Was the president
funny thing?
Take the show from the start.
Yeah. Funny little thing happened on the way to the forum. It's that Cyril Ramaphosa and his team of D-list ministers went to visit Donald Trump at the Oval Office, and it did not go well, ladies and gentlemen. It did not go well. Todd, I got to tell you, I wasn't kidding earlier. I really had popcorn here. I was eating popcorn. In fact, some of you were complaining because I was chewing the popcorn too loudly on the microphone.
Right. Well, it was Caesar said it was side splitting in the Senate today.
Indeed. A2 Brutus. Yes. No, it was, boy, that was something else. I don't know what to say. I remember 1994, April 27th, 1994. I remember this day, and I'll remember this for a long time. It was pretty crazy. But the thing is that, they're just delusional. They're going to go back to South Africa and convince themselves what the media is telling them that, it was success. We
won.
We moved the needle. No, you didn't move the needle. If anything, you made things worse.
It wasn't worth the fuel you spent to come over, probably.
It was for Trump.
I'm not making fun of South Africans. I'm just saying the administration of South Africa has got to go.
I think from what I've read tonight, most of those folks understand.
Oh yeah. We're speaking to the choir here. Yeah, but he needs to go. They need to reform the entire country's political system. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think that needs to happen, right?
You're right. So Holden Caulfield says, imagine being at Bagram Air Force Base, looking across the airfield, aircraft that used to belong to the United States, except that wouldn't be the case. See, here's the secret, Holden, that people don't understand. That's not our equipment. It was never our equipment.
Nope.
Congress allocated that money through the Foreign Military Financing Program to give those things to the Afghans. They didn't ever belong to us. That was their equipment. We abandoned no military equipment in Afghanistan. That's a fairy tale that conservatives like to tell.
Yeah, Republicans use that all the time, and even when my own congresswoman says that, I have to remind them, like, that's actually not true.
Because it's not our fault that our Congress gave $100 billion to buy military hardware, Blackhawks and things like that, and Humvees, and give them cruiser weapons instead of giving them AK-47s and freaking DAF trucks, which is what they should have had. So none of that equipment belonged to the U.S. We didn't abandon anything.
No,
the government of Afghanistan collapsed, and then they captured it.
And to me, it's a smack in my face. Having served in Afghanistan. It's a slap in my face, that whenever they say that. It's not, I know they're trying to go after Joe Biden and his administration, but it's a slap in the people in the military's face as well, saying we abandoned stuff, which we
did. We didn't. That's a lie.
The question here is, when we left, did we leave it? Were we supposed to be leaving it with Taliban in charge, or were they supposed to have a different government?
It belonged to the government of Afghanistan. It wasn't our property.
But I think Trump's intentions was not to have Taliban in charge, right? Biden left the Taliban in charge.
That's what Biden did that for sure.
Yes.
But
Biden precipitated.
There was an existing government. Biden left the Taliban in charge, which put the lives of the existing government, members of the existing government, at risk, and many of them have probably perished as a result. In fact, a lot of them were trying to cling to planes and falling off planes as they were taking off.
Right.
Yeah. So one of my viewers says that when Ramaphosa left today, he told the press he thought it went very well. I saw the Ramaphosa's press conference. It was comical, to say the least. He droned on and muttered some things, and he clearly was shaken. Clearly, whatever happened in that room that we didn't see after that press conference was not positive, and he's trying to put a good spin on things, but it didn't work. It didn't work. I don't think anybody was fooled except for Ramaphosa and the journalists, the sycophantic journalists. One of them, Anika, gets up. Mr. President, after that thing, I think you need a good stiff drink. Oh, my gosh. I think she needs a good stiff belt across the head for being stupid.
Your press credentials are pulled. Get out of the White House. You're out of here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not our equipment. They won't be able to maintain it. No, they won't be able to maintain it. That's the problem. I mean, look, it's like, you can make the same argument. Well, how come Iran has your F-4s? Because we sold them to the Shah of Iran, and he ran away, and they left them there, and the theocrats took over.
And he dies of cancer a few years later. Yeah,
well, not much longer after that. But it wasn't our equipment. Those aren't F-4s. They were bought by Iran, just like here's
the thing. Whenever we sell those types of aircraft to foreign governments, we don't give them the best version. We keep the best version for ourselves.
They don't have the full capability.
They're already outdated technologies and stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've moved on from it, and we just want to get rid of it.
To the point that an Iranian leader had just died, a year and a half ago? One of the helos went down because they couldn't get parts because we sanctioned them.
Sayonara.
Yeah. What happens when you don't play nice? You don't get
when you're evil, I don't care. Sorry.
I'm not showing any care. I'm just saying this is the outcome. You know what I'm saying?
When you're evil, I don't care.
Old, outdated, and they can't get the parts, and then they want to be enemies to us. And you used our equipment, you couldn't get the parts, and you got what you got. That's called karma, baby.
Yeah, back before the revolution in Iran, women could go to the beach or hang out at a pool with a bathing suit on. Walk down the streets without this burqa or baya thing on, or the full whatever they have to wear now, trash bags. I'm not making fun of anybody, but come on now.
Oh, Iran back in the day, 1970s, when women were a little bit more liberated, could wear blue jeans and a nice blouse.
Oh man,
nice hairdo and go out in public, and now they got to cover their body.
Even in Afghanistan, they could do that before the Taliban. Women could go to actual universities and college and have jobs. God,
imagine that.
What a concept.
Yeah.
What a concept. No, it's all gone the wrong direction in Iran since.
I love the what a concept.
Exactly.
What a concept.
What a concept. Yeah, no, seriously. It's the world. It's funny. And the left is all in favor of this. They love this stuff. They call that wonderful diversity.
Evil.
I remember the gays for Gaza. Remember that one? That was pretty entertaining.
They would throw you off of a building or hang you. Come on.
Yep.
They're not going to pat you on the back and say, let's go hang out. No.
It wasn't like they weren't announcing that gay people were being thrown off the highest buildings. I mean, we knew this was going on in the Mideast, and they're over here, gays for Gaza. I'm like, okay, you wouldn't lost a day.
Yeah, no, that some people really, really need to be disciplined more as children. It's you can see as adults that they just really are just too privileged, too full of themselves. But a number of people in the chat here that are popping in, their fathers served in uniform. So I'm starting to feel old now because those are guys that served in uniform when I served in uniform, Todd.
Oh, no.
So, people call me Santa Claus. I'm going to start resembling Santa Claus a little bit more here. I'm starting to get old here. Too many crickets, but I'm 59 again this year. I'm sticking to that story.
59 again. Yeah, it's the new 58, right?
He's like my mother that was sticking at 29 way back in the day.
Yeah, well, that's with my mom. That was the deal. When I turned 30, she called me up. I think it was in Germany, and she said, "Merry Christmas," because it's my birthday, and happy birthday. So you're what, 30 this year? I said, "No, I'm 29." Wait a second. No, you can't be 29. You're 30. I said, "No, Mom, I'm 29." No, that's nonsense. I said, think about it. If I'm 29, that means you're just 49. She goes, "I like your math." And so for 11 years, I was 29. Math. Yeah. So for 11 years, I was 29. And then I was fine with turning 40. So I was happy to be 40. 50 was awesome. I love turning 50. But then when I turned 60, it was a bit of a problem. So I'm 59 again this year.
Oh, there you go.
He has a DeLorean, and his name is Doc Brown. He can go back in time.
That's right. Oh, I wish to go back in time, get a little more color back in this beard. That'd be nice.
There you go.
He shows up in a flying steam locomotive.
Oh, that's a little too far back. I just want to go back a couple years, not that far.
If you could travel time, man, it would be kind of cool to go way back then and kind of check things out for a day or two.
Well, the Defense Intelligence Agency has flying saucers, right?
I heard. Well, it's an Area 51. I know. I've been there. Yeah. No, I watch the X-Files. I know all about this.
Yeah, I'm an expert. It's Scully and Mulder over here.
Great.
That's right. Yeah, no, somebody just said it's like we're like fine wine. The older we get, the better we are. It's if you say so, man.
Some of it turns to vinegar.
Tell that to my hip. That's turning to vinegar right now, apparently. Yikes. But we're coming up at the end of this program, folks. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, this 2-hour episode, a weekly event here with the Common Sense Conservatives with Todd McKinley in East Tennessee, John Grosvenor up in New Hampshire, and Chris Wyatt here in Central Pennsylvania. It's been an exciting day. If you are someone that loves South Africa, then you've seen a serious event take place today that hopefully will move the needle. But I'm not going to hold my breath because the odds are, Todd, I'll just turn purple like my hoodie and pass out.
Right. Probably so, for holding your breath for too long.
Exactly. Waiting for change, but we'll see. And we just got a couple minutes left here. Any topics you guys want to throw on the table real quick that I might have missed?
I'm sitting there listening as you were saying that. You realize, guys, we're living in what's going to be a very historic moment in time. What's happening right now with Trump and the things he's doing, he's basically stolen the liberal globalist agenda away from them.
Yeah.
And he's creating the order, the new global order.
So here's the funny thing. They all keep talking about the big reset. They're talking about the leftist reset. Trump has pushed the reset button.
Yeah,
we're resetting it all right now. It's awesome. Trump has flipped the script on the lunatics.
Yeah, he did. Once he got the Republicans to participate, because his first administration was topsy-turvy. It was a little bit of a disaster because the Republicans weren't participating. But they had that 4-year break, and I think they all got together and said, you know what? If we put our heads together, we're going to make this happen. And they have.
Yeah. And I like how they go into Congress now, and they're giving it back to them. They're not going to play around anymore. Marco Rubio did it today. The EPA director, he gave it back to them. I love it. You got to.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Retaining my time. Shut up.
I yield my time to the senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, trust me, if I was in the Senate, I'd probably never yield any of my time. I'd need people to add time for me. Can somebody give me another 5 minutes, please? Give me some 5 minutes, please.
Chris says I'm stealing more time.
That's right, man. Give it here. Give it to me. Give it to me. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. It's all mine.
I retain all the time.
That's it, folks. We'll catch you next week here on the Common Sense Conservatives. God bless. You're a fine American and Elvis loves you. And if not, well, that's too bad for you. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.